I forgot to start recording. So let me go through that again. Nightmare Child Episode 2. Welcome to those of you that may have stumbled across this. I am Blackwell, also known as Frumperton, at Frumperton on the Twitter. Our player characters: Ozzer Kettle Whistle, the level 2 rogue; Orcam Earbang, the level 2 bard; Ms. Nala Ms. Daragon, level 2 sorcerer; and Naya, the level 2 ranger, as well as Alec, a level 2 barbarian. I'm going to make this little video recording a little bit different. I'm going to let you guys, I'm going to make you guys stare at me, and I apologize for that, but until the actual screen, until something happens, looking at this stream that says the stream is starting soon for the entire time, probably kind of boring, and I'm much prettier than that. So, or at least I'd like to think so. So, 1 second while I add something here real quick, like to the Facebooks, and we will get started. We will get started here in just a moment, as I will pick up the audio from the players, and we can get into the actual stories. I do believe we are missing just Naya at the moment, so once she pops in, I will be joining in. So this story, I should say, is inspired by Matthew Mercer and the crew of Critical Role. I recently came across them not too long ago, probably sometime in December. I came across the Critical Role podcast, and from there I had just really wanted to start playing Dungeons and Dragons, and so I found a group, and we played roughly 3 episodes and 2 sessions, and then suddenly the DM that was going to help us, life took over for him, so he couldn't make it. So I started DMing a Curse of Strahd campaign, and I decided that I liked it, but I wanted something of my own. And I was sitting reading the Dungeons Master's Guide, and it suddenly hit me that I have an idea, and so this is where I'm running with it. This is called the Nightmare Child, as it says on the screen. We are. The story itself, as I said, inspired by Matthew Mercer. It's not necessarily the carnival thing was kind of an accident. I came up with that portion of it actually from a different part of my childhood, a different part of my pop culture childhood. It just so happened that the new episode, the new campaign for Critical Role, happened to start at a circus too. So, c'est la vie. But I'm inspired by Matthew Mercer, and I am taking. I'm learning from watching his stream, listening to their stream, because it's more than just Matt. I mean, Marisha, Taliesin, Sam, Travis, the others. I'm trying to speak off the top of my head. They all have inspired me. Our characters are all very, very inspiring. I love them all, and I'm hoping that I can do like a mediocre-ish job of doing this campaign, but so far I believe the players have enjoyed it. So I'm going to jump into my chat. One person still missing yet. They're on their way. They are going to be here. So let me pop up the chat so that we can get into the discussion and talk about what is going on in the world of Vulcanwald. It would help if I unmuted myself. I totally forgot to. I totally disconnected myself by accident, twice. All right, so Naya is still on her way. I have just recapped the stream as to what is going on. Well, I guess I just described what's going on. I haven't really recapped everything, but I have included Ozzer in some privy information, which he should have in his journal. It is up to him whether or not he shares that at this point in time. However, just to recap what happened 2 weeks ago, the day started off quite well. It was a wondrous experience. The town, as well as many of you, got to experience a full solar eclipse, which is usually seen as a sort of blessing. As you pulled out outside the town of Hugelburg, you all started setting up the circus as the eclipse happened. The circus is plagued by a kind of brutish, bullying labor master named Wilhelm, who had a sort of thing with Alec and anybody who seemed to be not human. And some of you had expressed your disinterest in him, Alec being ready to stand up to him but not quite ready to make a scene, and Naya, who did tell him sort of just to fuck off. In the town, Ozer and come on now, I can think of these things. Ozer and Orcam went into the town of Hugelburg and learned that the innkeeper had a wife that had passed away and was suspected of murder, and that before she died, she said one thing, "He's coming," and then passed away. But that sounds dirty. But he said he's coming and passed away, or immediately died, and many people think that the innkeeper was the one that killed his wife. You also came across a guardsman who seemed very happy to have you there, but he mentioned that the reason why the guard wouldn't be able to join the circus or enjoy the circus was because there had been sightings of bandit raids in the south. Later that night, as one of the mages of the circus, one named Harkin, was preparing a spell of wonder for the outside overflow crowd. A full lunar eclipse happened, which is extremely rare on the same day. As that lunar eclipse happened, suddenly everything went into chaos. All the humans seemed to go mad, and particularly Harkin began firing spells at people within the crowd. Inside the main tent, as the final finale show with the combat tournament of champions, so to speak, was happening, the human champion Bjorn Winterson backstabbed his friend Fulgor and killed him, and then immediately started fighting the other fighters for real, not as in combat. And as this was going on, people were setting fire to the tent and running in chaos and tormenting non-humans. And as Alec went to assist inside the tent, he was suddenly tackled by Wilhelm and a couple of Wilhelm's thugs, and the chaos erupted into a full-scale battle between the people inside the tent, Wilhelm and his crew, Harkin, and in the end, all heroes survived, though some much worse for wear. And at the end of it, the tent had burned down, many people were dead, and a Baron's guard from the town of Hugelburg came to arrest the remaining crew of the circus, believing that they were the ones that started this whole madness. However, the circus crew managed to convince the person that they were not responsible and that they would do what they could to help solve the mystery of this sudden madness that has taken over at least the town of Hugelburg. And that is where we pick up. That is where we start. We pick up with the crew having been lined up and being ready to be marched to Hugelburg. Miz, being awkward and trying to grab the commander's hand, was told to have two guards stand beside her, and they have kept their hands inside. They form up the party into a column and start marching the party into Hugelburg at a slow pace. at a slow pace, heading towards. I'm sorry, I clicked on something here in my thing. They're clicking at a slow pace towards Hugelburg, and that is where we pick up. So right now, you are currently marching into the town, led by the remaining, well, some of the remaining guard of the town of Hugelburg. All of them, you notice, are not human. You can say anything at this point, or do anything.
I'm preferring to just grumble about the march.
Okay, so as you're marching into the town, you'll notice that. Well, first off, as Naya had noticed at one point in time, that the mansion on top of the hill was completely engulfed in flames when she was on the other side of the tent, freeing animals. That has it hasn't subsided. I mean, there's still fire there, but you can see that mansion is a total loss. As you get closer to the town, you can hear some of the panic going on in the town. You hear people screaming. Towards the church, you'll hear a sort of thunder blast every once in a while, but it's not like a strong thunder blast. But you hear some sort of like as if the sort of local storm had happened there. Much of the town is relatively unscathed. Clearly, there had been chaos. It seemed like there had been a riot in this town. There's damage to buildings and stuff like that. A lot of the damage is on the northern end of the town. There have been some houses that had also been set fire. And the southern end seems somewhat undamaged, but not as chaotic. As you roam through the streets, you'll see bodies of humans and non-humans lying around. Some dying from, being the wounds, the death wounds. The deaths are all you could tell. I mean, just from your experience, that some of these people had died from just being trampled. Some had died from being stabbed or killed, or murdered, straight up murdered, killed, stabbed. Some had been burned. Some had been bludgeoned to death. You'll see, people with their heads bleeding. Clearly, this is the kind of chaos that you weren't expecting to see. And the guard is the town guard is marching you towards a sort of quieter portion of the town. He stops nearby the inn, which was completely burned down in the chaos. And he looks back at you and says, "My plan was to have you stay here. I wasn't aware that the damage had gone this far. I don't know where to put you. The barracks, we can't put you there. The jail, well, that's where I'd rather put you. But you kind of had me convinced that you didn't do this. We're gonna have to find out." As much as I hate to say this, we're going to have to requisition you or find you a house that the occupants no longer need.
Why don't you just let us go on our own and do this investigation? Why are you keeping this close anglehold on us?
Right now, for your own good. I mean, you and this orc-looking fella here look like you've taken quite a beating. I figure you could use the rest before you go out into the world and try to save us.
Any accommodations, I'm sure, will be more than adequate. We were used to sleeping on the ground and in all sorts of situations.
We live in tents.
And I would be happy to let you do exactly that, but until I figure out what the chaos is and where it's coming from and know that my people are safe, I don't want to worry about people roaming the streets that are clearly injured. So there's a house up on the road, just a little bit. I'm pretty sure belonged to the innkeeper. He's probably dead, so let's head that way. It's a small, modest house. It should fit the rest of you somewhat uncomfortably, but it'll work. So We'll head that way. So he takes a left down the road and keeps traveling on a little bit further, and then finally comes to a house where, again, clearly this has been a part of the town that has been sort of the riots had been. It's quieter now. Everything seems to be moving towards the south. If you hear, most of the chaos is south of you. You're on the northern side of the town, where there was quite a bit of damage. As I said before, there are some houses that are on fire. They're still on fire, and some of the guards are hastily trying to bring water from the river and into those houses using a bucket brigade, but the fire is, I mean, throwing buckets at a fire like this is just slowing it down. It's not really fighting it. But the house that he's given you is relatively safe from the danger. You can smell the smoke in the air. It's a very campfire smell, which is kind of weird given the chaos that's going on. But you can also kind of taste the copper of blood in the air. And it's going to be hard for you to sleep because of all the chaos that's going on. But he opens the door and orders 2 guards to go on inside, and they go in very clear the house style with their swords drawn, shields at the ready. And you can hear them sort of clattering around, moving things around, and after about 2 minutes, they come out and they just nod at him, and he turns and looks at you guys. Okay, turns and looks at you guys, and he says, "Okay, this is clear. There's only one bed, so if you want to fight for it, whatever. Please don't kill each other. Rest here. I will do what I can to see if I can get you some sort of bandages. I can't promise you anything right now. The fire is on the northern side is getting a little bit out of control. We're hearing reports of more people going mad towards the southern side of the city, and I need to get there now. So, if there's anything you need, you'll have to wait till the morning.
So these attacks are still going on now?
They are, but they're not as prevalent as they were probably about an hour ago when you were deep into the fight with Wilhelm.
Okay, about what time of the evening is it now, or night?
You're probably looking at about 9:30ish.
Okay.
So this is the house of the innkeeper who was a little bit forlorn, whose wife died?
Yes.
I want to search around the house, see if he has like a diary or even the wife's effects, see if they knew something.
Okay. Go ahead and roll investigation.
Alrighty, 1 sec. Oof, could be better.
You roam around through the rooms. There really is only like 2 rooms. There's a sort of a living space, and there's I guess 3 rooms. Or 4, I should say 4. But there's 2 main rooms. There's a living room, and then there's the bedroom. When you go through the living room, you don't find much. It appears that there had been sort of some looting going on as the riots had taken place, as this madness has taken place. But as you go through the bedroom, there's just that one little kind of nightstand. It's makeshift. It was clearly thrown together by wood as much as he could. You can tell that the workmanship of the person that built it was very, very terrible. But there was a drawer, and inside that drawer was the wife's diary. As you page through the diary, you don't find a whole lot of information. From what you can gather, actually roll. Well, from what you can gather, she was a druid, and as much as druids don't like being in towns and in settlements, a lot of what you can gather is that their move to Hugelburg was out of necessity. In fact, she didn't come. She wasn't the lone druid that moved here. There was another druid that moved with her, and that druid had a child. The child ended up being what she described as an immaculate conception, but not of the great kind, of a very bad kind. The child is, they are hiding the child for the good of not only the child, but as she kind of hints at, the good of the world. She doesn't say where that child is in the diary for obvious reasons. She doesn't want anybody just to stumble across this and find out where he is. But it is a male child, and it is a tiefling child. And you can only assume that from the information is that they would have been in this town.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna find a nice cozy spot to start my trance, meditating.
Okay.
I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm gonna try to grab the bed unless somebody's already in it.
It's all yours. I'll sit in the corner and, pet the squirrel.
The dead squirrel?
The squirrel of doom.
Is there a backyard to this place?
Not really. I mean, when you think of, if you've ever been to a Renaissance fair, you'll see that a lot of the houses are sort of cluttered together, and then you'll have roads, and then there'll be more cluttering of houses, and then a road, and then cluttering of houses. So there's not really a backyard. There would be a space between houses. That's why one house being on fire is an incredible danger to a big portion of the town, because that means that probably all those houses in that area are going to catch fire.
Because I assume I have my panther with me, so I'm probably not going to want to be in the house.
You actually don't have the panther with you. The panther ran off. So as of right now, you don't have your pet.
Okay, well then I'll probably, I don't know, sit outside on the stoop or whatever.
Okay. Anybody else choose to sleep?
I'll try to stay up a wee bit longer, but I will try to sleep at some point.
Okay. Those of you that are going to sleep, roll a wisdom check. Actually, I'm sorry, a constitution check.
Okay, mine's not considered sleep. I don't sleep. I just do a 4-hour trance.
Right, but I still need you to do the constitution check.
Okay.
So we got Mark. Ms. with a 16. We've got Ozer with a 4, and we've got Orcum with a 2, a crit failure. Those are all of you that are going to sleep?
Well, I'm not sleeping right away, and like I said, I'm staying up a little bit to keep some watch and then head up to sleep.
Okay. So, as the night goes, Ozer and Ms. goes off into her trance. Ozer goes up into the room, and goes into the bedroom, snags his little tiny body onto the bed, and immediately drifts asleep. Orcum stays up and I guess you could say, is kind of keeping watch, making sure that no one comes back this way to take over the try to attack the house or attack the occupants in the house. You can assume that if there are any humans coming back, they'd be coming back for any non-humans. As you sit in the living space, I'm assuming there is some furniture there, so you can still sit, or there's like a couch, kind of a lounger kind of thing. And you put your feet up and you sort of wait and listen, and every now and then you'll hear a thunder crack, and you'll see a flash of light. But as you go, you start getting used to the sounds. They drift away. Clearly, whatever riot is happening is getting less and less and less, but it's drifting away, and you're starting to feel a sort of level of comfort, even that maybe you're safe, and the sounds of what's going on outside start to sound a lot like white noise, and you feel yourself getting very, very relaxed. And finally, you lay your head back, and your eyes drift, or your eyes close, and you drift away to sleep. Not long after your sleep, you kind of start hearing the sound of a so you open your eyes, but you open your eyes and it's pitch black. You can't see anything. You just feel, just inches from your face, something hitting something ahead of your head, in front of your face, and you realize that you're lying down. You're not standing. You're lying down. And your arms are at your sides, and you keep hearing just above you. But each time you hear that rumbling, it gets kind of softer and softer and softer, as if something is being piled on top of you, on top of something that you're in.
Buried alive.
Well, that's a problem.
You kind of realize that, as if you try to move, that, yeah, you are in a very, very tight, closed space, something that would feel like a coffin. And you struggle against the walls, and you realize as this is happening that it feels like everything's closing in on you. You're finding it hard to breathe. You start trying to push at anything, trying to get space, trying to give way, try to get out. You don't like where you are. You need to get out and get into air, and you feel like your mind starts to like race against itself. You're trying to think of anything you can do. You start screaming for help. But all you can hear is that just as the more and more dirt seems to get piled upon you.
Oh yeah, at this point I'm pretty much in full out panic mode.
As you start to panic, deep inside your head, you start to feel some sort of presence just touching your mind. You can feel inside your scalp 5 fingers just run right over your brain, and they pull apart, and all you hear at the end of it is
Can I tell if I'm having a dream or not, or is this like
roll a wisdom check.
check or save?
Either or. It's wisdom save. Actually, be more of a wisdom check.
Wow, I'm just rolling crap today.
Woof. hope very much that this is, well, you don't hope, but you still hope that it's a nightmare that you're having right now. But as it keeps going, you start to listen. You start to lose the sound of the even part, the shovel digging into the dirt. All you just hear is as the last bits of dirt are piled upon you.
Just to see if I can see anything, I just want to like light myself up a fairy fire.
Okay. So reaching into your mind, you do what you can to light up yourself with fairy fire, and as this glow sort of envelops you, you realize that you are in a wooden box. It's not very tightly sealed. In fact, when you kind of do your best to look down, there's parts in between the boards where loose dirt, is sort of kind of sneaking itself into the coffin. So you know that whatever little space you have right now eventually is to become less and less and less as the ground just closes in around you.
All right. At this point, yeah. Right now, basically, he is just kind of trying to push up on the top and starting to shout and trying to fire off the message spell about whoever is up top there, but I don't think it actually can reach them just because of all the dirt. So he is just in full panic mode, trying to push the top off, trying to start digging through and get to an actual open area.
So as you do that, you start struggling and screaming and doing everything you can to get anybody's attention to help you. You hear this struggle. And then you wake up. You realize you wake up in a kind of like almost like as if you were about ready to scream right out loud. And so anybody in the house would have heard Orcam almost at the verge of a scream as he stumbles out. It doesn't really stumble awake. He shoots awake. He pops up as if he had just emerged from deep underwater and was at the point where he almost lost his breath, but just broke the surface at just the right time to kind of get that deep breath in and realize that he's alive. He's not dead. He's not, wherever he was in his dream. And that's what anybody inside the house would have kind of experienced.
What time did I wake up about?
You would have slept roughly about 8 or 9 hours. So you're looking at probably about 6 in the morning.
Hey, Marty, I would have woken up at 4 before that, or 4 hours in.
You would have. And so you would have seen him sort of kind of twitching around a little bit, but not. To you, it would look like he was having a dream.
Okay, when I woke up in the middle of the night, I was going to go wander around.
Okay. So when you, Ms., wake up, you'll notice that as you walk through where are you in the house and where do you go?
I guess I was just out in the main area. I'm going to walk back out the door we came in.
Okay.
Just, of course, I can see extraordinarily well at night, so I'm just kind of comfortable in the dark walking around.
All right.
I'm at the front door, so.
So as you walk out the front door, you'll see Naya sitting outside, doing whatever she would be doing as this sort of riding wears down. 4 hours in, you would still hear Orcam kind of struggling around a little bit, and I just realized we lost one, but you sort of kind of struggling around and, look like he's having a dream, twitching a little bit and tossing and turning a little bit, but clearly in the grips of sleep. But as you are sitting outside, you'll see Ms. Walk out the door, probably somewhat creepily.
Can I see any victims around here at all? Looking for bodies? Any assault? Basically bodies.
Yes, yes. As I said before, like they're not busy cleaning up the streets right now. They're dealing with whatever is that's going on towards the south end of the town.
Okay, I don't really care about the fires or what everyone else is doing. I'm more grab my notes, grab my tools and stuff. I'm gonna go study one of the dead bodies.
Okay. So Naya, you see Ms. just sort of walk out, look around, and she finds one of the bodies nearby. It's still freshly dead, and she goes over to it and she pulls out a pad, or not a pad, some paper and a pen, and some charcoal or whatever it is that she uses to start drawing notes. And you see her pulling out these tools that almost look like surgeon's tools, and she plops them down on a cloth on the ground and just starts poking at this dead body.
I'll probably stand up and kind of look around and make sure no one's watching, just in case. I don't need anybody to come over and give her grief.
All right, so as Ms. starts studying this body, poking at it, maybe are you dissecting it kind of thing, or?
Yeah, sure. Just poking around, taking notes, writing stuff down, studying it. Try to determine exactly what happened, how the person died.
Okay, this particular body is the body of a half-elf, and it still bears the expression of terror on its face, as whatever it is that was killing it, that killed it, and it's a male. Whatever it is that killed him, happened suddenly, and he didn't know how to react. And as you poking around, you can just tell that a lot of the body is bruised, and it seems like the rib cage had been sort of broken and crushed. If you examine enough, you could probably guess that as this chaos started, he was in the streets, and you would surmise that something happened nearby that set a lot of people running, and he would have been knocked over and trampled by a sizable enough crowd, and maybe a number of them had pushed him down and just literally beat him, kicking him, stamping on him, punching him, anything, until he finally just snuffed it out. And the reaction was total fear, total terror. You don't find any kind of weapons or anything like that on him. The townspeople weren't exactly fighters. They were fishermen and farmers and tradespeople, and the only people in town that are armed are the Baron's Guard. So you don't get the sense that these were people that were ready for anything at all like this and wouldn't have expected anything like this. So he's pretty beaten up.
Okay, this one's kind of boring. I'll move to another one.
All right. So inside the house, you can kind of hear sort of rumbling around, fussing around as Orcam is, still, sleeping, but it appears that he's kind of struggling through everything. I would say that probably took you close to an hour to examine that body, especially, while you can see well in the dark. There's a lot of chaos still going on in town. Not so much, but every once in a while, being who you are, would hear that rumble of thunder and the flash of light, and you'd look up curiously and wonder what's going on. So it'll pause you from your notes just a little bit, but then you being also who you are, you immediately go back and focus on that body. But as you realize that it's not anything interesting, you kind of fluff down in a huff and sort of stand up and then go searching for another body. And the bodies they're not sparse, so you don't have to walk very, very far to find another body. This particular body looks more like one of the Bairnsguard, another non-human, a dwarf Bairnsguard, who had been cut down, clearly stabbed in the back, much the same flavor as Fulgor. And so as you're examining the body, you'll see a piercing or a pierced wound through his sternum, where a sizable enough, you could probably guess a long sword or a long blade of some kind went through from the back to the front, or even maybe from the front to the back. Obviously, you can't tell an exit wound from an entrance wound, but he wouldn't have seen it. If he saw it coming, he didn't seem to have any kind of reaction. His face is very stern. Rigor mortis is kind of starting to set in here, so his face is somewhat lightish blue. Lips are turning somewhat blackish. His eyes are rolled back into his head, but there's no sort of expression of fear or anger or anything like that on his face. It's just a straight, stern lip, a tight-lipped, sort of stern look on his face. As you rummage through, the chainmail that this guard is wearing is damaged. It's not going to serve much purpose at this point with a chest wound. I mean, you might be able to find a way to repurpose it if you strip the body. The weapon doesn't seem to be having his weapon. You can probably figure out at this point that someone came across the body and grabbed the weapon, whether for defense or to attack, you wouldn't know. But the weapon that he had was gone, as well as the shield that he would have been carrying.
Okay, that's all I'm doing is just examining bodies and kind of just scoping out the area a little bit too while I'm out here. So.
All right, and just to answer your question, to whisper, you type /W, and then the name, which will somewhat sort of kind of auto-populate, and then your message. So, and to answer your question, you wouldn't. Okay. Ozer. We're probably about 4:30 in the morning ish when you wake up.
Since I'm going to assume that Nara's still on the front, I'm going to see if there's another way to sneak out of the house.
Okay. Roll stealth.
Okay.
Oh yeah. You find your way outside of the house, and there's no one notices that you even left.
Is there any sign? Can I hear any action going on? Anything still happening at this point?
Nearby you, no. As it keeps going, I mean, it's through the night, the noise has been dying down quieter and quieter. But actually, Ms. Naya and Ozer, roll perception. Actually, this probably wouldn't take much of a perception, so never mind that. The three of you that are outside are going to kind of notice that at this point in time, it seems like the day should be sort of dawning, but it's not. It seems like the night is just persisting. So it doesn't seem like the sun is coming up. You can tell the passage of time just based on how much more rested you feel as you go.
Well, I would like to go and investigate and see if I can find any action still happening in town.
Okay. The noise that you'll be hearing would be coming, as I said, from the south. The thunder has sort of dwindled down. You won't hear much of it, but you can sort of tell that a lot of that is coming from nearby the temple or the church in the town.
Well, I'll head to the church. Sneakily.
All right. You get about. It takes about 5 minutes-ish to walk towards that area.
Okay.
And when you get there, you see this gnome, a female gnome, sort of resting on the stairs of this temple. And she's clearly tired, spent. Around her are several human bodies. The doors of the church are shut, but inside you can kind of sort of hear some commotion going on inside. The human bodies, if you look around, you'll notice that many of them have what looks like burn marks on their bodies where they were hit by something. And she sees you coming and is prepared to fight, but realizes that you're not human, so she just sort of sits down and relaxes. She says, "There's room inside if you need."
What's happened? What's happened around the this area? I've known the commotion around town, but what was specific to here?
Same thing has happened around the rest of the town. We were just enjoying our nights. Those of us that didn't make it to the circus. Suddenly, this eclipse happened, and then chaos.
So, what's going on in the temple? Is it just, is this like where most of the townspeople are ending up, or?
Most of them are dead, sweetie. Those that are inside are those that are don't feel safe at home.
Understood. So, are there any humans that have snapped out of this, or has this been, is us non-humans all that's left?
Unless you've seen a human acting rationally, I don't know.
Good to know. I'm going to just kind of keep going. I don't really have any interest in going to the temple, but I do have an interest in seeing if there is anything sticking out that might be of use. Like either preferably out of sight of the gnome, but just is there anything on a body that I can casually glance at that I might want to pick up, or in the window of a house or something?
Okay. So just to pause here for real quick. Alec is currently resting. Apparently may have hurt himself real hard, but I had to laugh at not Alec. Orcum's comment of must have been a horrid dex check. Oh, okay. So as you roam through the town, being as stealthy as you are, you'll come across random coins here and there. Let's see. Let me pull up a little thing here and see what I can get you to find as I do that. You won't find much in this way of, like, again.
I'm not looking so much for coins as just interesting things.
Yeah, as far as interesting things, you're not going to find a whole lot. Again, it's a town of fishermen and farmers. none of them kept a lot of treasure. You would guess that anything of any kind of value is going to be either in the store or in the blacksmith shop. The blacksmith, if you walk your way that way, inside it's very, very well boarded up at this point. The blacksmith, clearly capable of protecting his own, was able to, not really boarded up, but like you have that big beam of wood that goes across the door that keeps it from being entered upon. I can't remember what it's called at this point in time, but it's barricaded. And the store itself is also relatively barricaded. So as this happened, the shop owners reacted very, very quickly. The general store itself has some windows busted in.
I'm just looking for low-hanging fruit, so if it's something that if there appears something I can get without too much hassle, otherwise I will start making my way back to the house with the other crew.
All right, so when you get to one of the broken windows of the general store, roll a investigation check.
Hey, I found a store.
So you peek inside. I can't remember. You're half elf, right?
Halfling.
Halfling, and you don't have dark vision, correct?
I do not believe I have dark vision.
All right, so it's dark inside, and you can't see much of anything. When you do peek inside, you kind of hear some shuffling around a little bit, but you can't make anything out. So you sort of, and the window is such that you kind of have to reach up and grab it and then sort of pull yourself up. So you're kind of doing a pull up while looking through this window. So as you look around, you don't see a whole lot. You hear that shuffling sound. You kind of peek off towards the direction that you think you heard it. And then you just kind of decide that maybe it's not worth the risk and just drop down.
That would be me.
Okay. So as you start heading back, we go back to the house where Orcam has again, he's woken up from his dream. He just kind of pops through into consciousness, like I said as before, as if he's breaking the surface of being trapped underwater for a long period of time, and just kind of and it seems like he's about ready to scream when he realizes where he is. Nobody is in the house with him, but outside, Naya, you would hear him sort of almost kind of kind of catching his breath.
All right, well, I'm gonna walk in to try to see what's going on inside.
All right, so you walk in and you see Orcam alert on where he fell asleep on the couch, and sweat is pouring down his face. His eyes are wide, and he's looking around, and you can tell he's relieved that he's alive, but he's also very, very terrified.
Outside. I need outside. I need outside right now.
I'll help him. Grab him. Like, come on.
All right, so you walk outside the door, and as I said, you get outside, and it's roughly 6 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, somewhere around there, and as much as there should be sunlight, it's still rather dark outside.
I just don't even notice. I just go sit and like sit back up against the house and just kind of like stare out into nothing for a while.
What happened?
Bad dream. Just bad dream.
Do you want me to get you some water or something?
Yeah. That would. Yes, please.
Alright, I'll go find him some water.
All right, so you walk back into the house, and finding water is not going to be that much of a difficult task, especially for a ranger. I mean, you're probably going to find it even faster than someone in a town would, which makes no sense whatsoever. But there's each of the houses have a kind of shared well being so close to the river. So you go back to the around the house, and you find the well, bring the bucket down, bring it back up, get some water. You probably have a canteen of some kind. You dip it in the water, bring it back out to them.
So, yeah, you notice that it's morning and it's not morning. What the hell?
Am I nearby them right now?
Yeah, you wouldn't be too far away.
Yeah, I'll just take a drink of water and just kind of sit there and just stare, like nowhere.
I'm gonna walk back towards the group, and I'll just be looking around, like looking at the sky and looking in wonder, and say, "Isn't this wonderful? It's morning, but it's still dark."
Well, I appreciate the darkness, but what the hell?
So as you sit there and wonder about the nature of the world not dawning, the morning not dawning, you notice that other things about the morning are missing. You don't hear the chirping of birds, or that little whoo whoo kind of sound that some birds make. It seems like this night is going to last forever.
Is there still a moon or a blood moon?
Yes, the eclipse has not stopped. The moon hasn't even moved from its spot in the sky. It's still at the exact same. It's almost like the world has stopped turning.
Well, I'm okay with that. I like total darkness, so. So we're all gathered together now. Is that correct?
So as you guys are sitting outside, the three of you are sitting outside. Eventually, you'll see. Well, actually, you wouldn't see him. But it's up to Ozzer whether or not you witness him coming up.
I'm actually going to go back in and pretend like I'm coming out of the house.
Okay, so as the three of you sitting around outside, Orcam clearly in a state of shock, Ms. smiling creepily to herself, and Naya looking up in the sky and wondering what's going on. Eventually, out from out the house, you poke the halfling Ozzer coming from the door and just kind of stretching the yeah. And then, pop out the door.
It should be light, and I don't hear any birds. Something else going on.
As my wits start to slowly come back to me, I just start kind of. I hold up the diary that I found and just said, according to this, the innkeeper's wife who died, there was another druid in town that had a child, but immaculate conception. There's a male tiefling, and it sounds weird enough that I think there might be something we need to look into this. And also, then they mentioned before this whole this nightmare started that there was a kidnapping on the south side. We might want to look at that today at some point.
Were the kidnappings children?
I don't recall that. I mean, it's somewhere to start. I don't know if there was where the other druid was living. It doesn't say in here. So but I believe it was in town.
So before the show, do you remember that the barmaid that we ran into? She's going to meet up with us and talk about joining our troop. Somebody who worked directly with this innkeeper might have some additional knowledge. It might be worthwhile if we sought her out and see if she survived this ordeal or where she's at as well.
Was she human?
No, she was a half elf.
All right, that might be a good thing then.
Yeah, let's see if we can find her.
Might be good to have somebody that's a kind of an ally that might know this town, might know the area.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to seek her out, and if anybody chooses to join me, then that's up to them.
I'll go with them.
Yep, I'll tag along.
I'll come too.
Okay, so as the four of you roam, you kind of walk through the town, and those of you with dark vision are able to concentrate enough that you've now had a full night's rest. So you've gotten a full long rest. So note that in your character sheets if you need to. You have had a full night's rest, so you should be at full hit points, full spells, everything. Now that you've had the rest and have kind of been able to gather yourselves a little bit, you're able to walk around and you clear view of the bodies, the damage, the destruction. The fires to the north side seem to be dying down. They seem to be successfully fighting them. You can still hear shouts from the guards up north. The calamity, the noise, the riding, the fighting that seemed to be going from the south has somewhat died down a lot. In fact, it's almost eerily quiet now as this never-ending night has carried on. Everything seems to have quieted down, and so you make your way around. And as Ozer and Orcum were the two that were at the inn before, they are able to make their way around to find out where the inn is, and it is completely destroyed. There's nothing left. It was burned down to the ground. You don't immediately spy the barmaid. Nearby, there are some guards sort of sifting through the rubble a little bit. One is a half-orc. The other is a dwarf, being the two hardier of the races, picking up as much as they can and moving it off to the side.
I'm going to go and ask them politely about the girl.
Okay, 1 second. I can't remember her goddamn name.
So she's obviously meant to be a major character.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. All right, so as the orc is pulling up stuff, he sees you four ragtag group. Look it up, and he kind of looks at you suspiciously, like, "What you want?"
I was yesterday before all this madness happened. We were here and we were talking with the barmaid, and we are concerned about her safety because she was somebody who we had had a very interesting conversation with, and we wanted to make sure that she is all right. Have you heard about her lately?
He stops for a second with something in his hand and looks up towards the sky, thinking, and then kind of, Emma? You remember seeing her? He looks at the dwarf next to him. He just sort of shakes his head. Nope. And then dwarf continues about his business. And the orc kind of shrugs his shoulders and goes, maybe the church?
Thank you for your assistance. I'll proceed there next.
All right. So they continue about their business, and you walk down towards the
Actually,
church.
but before we go, I just want to ask him. Last night we heard about, before this whole ruckus started, there was some sort of incursion or kidnapping around town. Do you know anything about that?
Nope. Gustav's working on that.
And where might I be able to find this gentleman?
He's the one in charge now. Shouldn't be too hard to find him. I'm pretty sure he's at the south end of the town.
Thank you much for your help.
He nods and then picks up another piece of wood and tosses it aside. So as you make your way towards the church outside, again for most of you, but the gnome is sitting outside, sort of now leaning back, rolling her neck, kind of trying to get her body to not feel so stiff. As she sees you approaching, she was just about to stand up, and she looks over at you guys and looks at you and says, "You're back."
Oh yes, sure. We're wondering about do you know if the maid that used to work at the inn is kind of a barkeep? I'm gonna try to brush off and ignore her comment.
She could be in there. I've been so busy out here trying to protect them. You can go ahead and look.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
How many attacks have you had recently that have come to here since the shenanigans started?
Attacks like this? Nothing.
Alrighty, thank you.
She nods and she looks over at at you before you go in and says, "By the way, I hate to ask this, but are any of you how do I say this? Religious?"
If you consider money a religion, then I'm all for it.
Maybe I should ask it this way: do any of you speak with gods, the gods?
I know of them.
Sometimes God speaks to me.
Have you heard from your god lately?
We speak all the time.
She sort of kind of makes a sort of disappointed face and then nods and points at points over her shoulder. Go ahead and go in.
Can I whisper as we're going by and tell her that Mrs. God is a dead squirrel?
She just looks at you and goes, kind of just sort of whispers, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
She's mad, just kind of ignore her.
She just nods and then kind of looks up at the sky and as you guys wander into the church.
I'll give my squirrel a little extra scratch behind the ear when we walk by.
She just sort of pretends not to notice you do that. So inside the church, it's not gonna be hard to tell. There's really only about 7 or 8 people gathered inside. It's a big enough church to hold a lot more people, but the chaos was enough that not everybody A made it alive, and B made it to the church. So at the very, very front, you will find the barmaid Emma that you were talking about. She is clearly distressed, but sits at the front pew, pew, and she's got resting her elbows on her knees, her head in her hands. She's not really sobbing. She's just sort of staring at the floor, doing that thing where you stretch your face when you're really, really bored. But it's clear that she's more or less rubbing her temples at the same time as she's trying to figure out everything.
I'm gonna kind of sit down next to her, kind of put my arm on her shoulder, and ask her how she's holding up.
When you do that, she kind of you startle her a little bit, and then she's ready to defend herself almost immediately when she looks over and sees you, and bless you, and she looks around and the rest of you. She recognizes two of the four of you, and kind of looks around and goes, weren't they going to arrest you?
It's a long story, but we're working with the town for now. We just want to make sure you're okay, because before this madness started, you were going to come up and join us, and I understand why you weren't able to make it, but we want to make sure that you're taken care of as well.
She looks around again and just sort of nods and goes, I don't even know where to begin. I'm fine. I wasn't in the inn, but I'm fine. I just came right here as soon as everything happened.
That seems a good place to be. We would gladly welcome somebody who knows the area if you want to get out of town and join us a little bit and, kind of help guide us in dealing with the local town politics and things like that. We'd really be glad to have you join our group.
She looks at you and goes, I don't know what you think I am, but I'm not that. Personally, I don't want to leave the town unless we're in complete danger. I don't know what's out there. I don't want to know what's out there. I'm fine right here where I know it's safe.
Understood. I just know that last night that you were potentially looking to join the circus, and I know that, part of that had to do with the innkeeper himself, but, just wanted to make sure that we weren't leaving you behind. Do you know anybody that is still remaining? Do you have any good contacts of people that we can talk to? People that might have any idea? I mean, you obviously worked in an inn. You know more people than almost anybody else.
She looks around at the church and says, the only people I know that are alive right now are the other 6 in this church. I don't know what happened to Shigan. I don't know if Yegor is alive. I don't know if Manda is alive. I don't even know if the mayor or if the Baron is alive or who's in charge of the Baron's Guard. We haven't seen much of anything. I've just been inside this church since last. What happened at the circus?
Everyone lost their mind. Well, mainly the humans, and everything burned down. We had to kill our friends, and overall, it was kind of a rough night.
From what we understand, pretty much the same thing that happened here happened to us as well.
It was glorious.
She looks at you and just kind of, glorious? This is glorious?
Ignore the creepy squirrel, man.
She's a woman.
Whoa, man.
So,
or simply just ignore the creepy squirrel.
Okay. She just kind of shakes her head and goes, Yesterday when I said I wanted out of here, it was in order to make money elsewhere. Is the circus even still up?
There are other ways to find money and glory, and I think this is just the start of it.
She kind of eyes you suspiciously and just sort of, I don't understand.
Unfortunately, I think the circus will not be traveling for some time. We still have a few of our kindred who are alive, and we'll see after all this is settled, what we can do. But for now, we're kind of on our own.
She nods, clearly understanding. And then she looks at you and goes, "So, how is it outside?"
It's calmed down quite a bit. There doesn't seem to be any immediate danger from walking around the town. We've kind of been around the town a little bit this morning without being harassed or anything. There's no sunrise, there's no daylight, so there's definitely something that's still wrong out there. But in terms of immediate safety, we seem to be okay.
Did you stop by the inn?
There is no longer an inn.
She kind of, and then puts her hands on her shoulders and starts quietly sobbing. She puts her head in her hands and starts quietly sobbing. Not her hands on her shoulders, but you know what I mean. She puts her head down in her face, or face down in her hands, and you can start kind of hear her sobbing.
If there's anything else that we can do for you personally, let us know, because we've taken an interest in you because of your willingness to join us last night. So anything that we can do, let us know. But otherwise, we're going to go and I think the town guardsman is I don't know how to properly say this, but enrolled us into helping get to the bottom of this mess. So that's where we'll be going.
She sort of, sniffles a little bit, wipes her eyes, and grabs her head, and she says, "Gustav trusts you that much to let you just roam free?"
I don't think he had much say in the matter after the fact that the pummeling that both humans and non-humans have taken over the last night.
And she leans back and she's hugging herself, and tears still sort of slowly rolling down her cheek. She just nods.
Emma, I know it's hard for you. This is a hard time for everybody. I'm concerned about my own family members. Hopefully that beyond here, the craziness is not as widespread. But we're trying to find what the source of this is to try to stop it. Do you know anything more about the Shigan's wife? Were there any other druids in town that you knew of other than her?
She looks at you and goes, she was a druid?
I've heard some stories that she was special, that she was a druid of some sort.
She leans back trying to think, and she says, "Well, she didn't come around the inn very, very often. She didn't seem to really talk to a lot of people in the town. Kind of kept quietly to herself and to Shigan. But I mean, there were a few people that she would be seen with regularly, and I guess none of them seemed druidish. But I mean, the one I saw her with most was Sasha."
Well, druids don't like to be seen in cities, so they tend to try to blend in to not spook people. So Sasha, where did Sasha live?
She thinks back for a little bit, and she's thinking, she kind of, if I remember right, just on the outskirts of the south side of the town, right by the river. Just as the woods meet the town, she had a shack there.
So she lived in a shack?
Well, I mean, she didn't have a house so much. She was very modest. She didn't, it was a home. I mean, as much as anybody else that has a roof over their head would call a home. But it wasn't anything. It stood out more because it wasn't like everything else around here, I guess.
Was she part of the town much, or did she keep to herself?
I never really saw her much other than with Sasha. I'm sorry, with oh, for the love of Pete.
Oh, my immersion's completely broke.
Yeah, I don't have her name written down anywhere.
With Mia, Mia with Mia. Mia and Sasha would hang out. That would be the only time I'd ever see them or see her.
All right, thank you.
This is going to sound really insensitive, and I apologize for asking it in advance, but just so we know what we're walking into, is Sasha human?
No, half elf.
I'm very relieved to hear that, as I'm sure you understand why.
She nods.
Thank you, Emma. I know this time is hard, and hopefully we'll be able to return to you and say things have settled down and maybe try to help this town rebuild a bit. But we have some other inquiries to look into. You've been very helpful, and I'm sorry for your loss, and we'll do what we can to make things right.
She nods and waves a hand.
Is there anybody else in here, this is to Mr. DM, that would appear to be worth talking to?
Only one way to find out.
I'm going to go sit out front and keep the gnome occupied.
Okay.
I just want to take a look around, like, do any of the folks look, I don't know, either talkative or if they look somewhat... Well, what races are around here? Like, is it... I'm curious of that. Any tieflings?
No tieflings. You mostly you'll see a few elves and a gnome, a dwarf, and then a couple of more half elves. So like 2 or 3 half elves, two elves, a gnome, and a halfling. Besides Emma, who is also a half elf.
Okay. I think we have... So I'll just kind of whisper to the other, the group that is around with us. Well, I think we have a couple things we want to look at. I think the shack is something. I also want to... We might want to go check where that bastard Wilhelm went into the forest, because I know that was another oddity that happened yesterday. Or just go check the circus to see the circus area to see how it's been faring.
This is where the rest of you kind of respond.
I'm outside with the gnome, so...
Oh yeah, that's right.
So that's just me.
And Naya.
I'm just kind of following along because I kind of feel like we need to do something. We need to get a plan going, guys.
I have to admit that I'm very intrigued by what's happening here with the night and all the chaos. And yeah, I'm open to investigating as well. The Druid Shack seems like a good start.
All right, I think that's also where they mentioned that there was a kidnapping in part of town. Was that on the south side? I didn't write exactly in my notes where that happened.
No one's really said.
I thought the guards mentioned it yesterday when they came to arrest us.
They mentioned something about a kidnapping. I don't remember. Did I say the south side of town? If that's where it happened, yes. If I did say it.
Yeah, I know they mentioned a kidnapping, but I can't remember if they mentioned where. But
We also know there were raiders south of town as well, so I'm guessing there's some association there.
Sorry, say that one more time.
There were raiders south of town, or some kind of raids happening south of town.
Yeah, they had mentioned that there were it seemed to be bandit raids on the south side of the town.
then I say to the south side we go. Let's go check out maybe this hut, or if we can find Gustav. I don't know if we need to check in with the guards, if he's down in that area too.
Okay. So you head out to church and you see Ozzer there with the gnome. Is there anything you wanted to say to the gnome?
Nah, I was just trying to calm her down and ease her tension a little bit, and maybe give her a backup.
She looks over at you and says, "Sweetie, that's my job. I'm the one that calms people. I appreciate the effort, but I'm fine."
No harm in trying.
She sort of gives you a sort of punch in the shoulder and says, "Thanks."
So what's the plan, guys?
I think the south side, where there's a certain shack we need to visit, and we might run into Gustav on the way.
Works for me. Let's go.
All right. So
Are there any fires and such still going on, or like any sounds of fighting or unrest as we've been walking around?
No, it's been quieter and quieter. I mean, you can yeah, the fire is, I mean, it's not as prominent as it was. You can still see the kind of orangish reddish glow to the north. And you can see the smoke coming off, but it seems like the guards are making headway in fighting the fire. I mean, before it looked rather hopeless, but you would gather that there's probably a majority of any brave townsfolk and any guards are going to be up north. But Gustav did make his way towards the south when he left you.
Alrighty, then I say south it is.
Okay. The church itself is clearly in the center part of the town. There's really only two main roads that flow towards the south. One along the river's edge, and then one sort of like a block up, a full city block up, not a city block, but like a town block up. So, however much distance that is, there's another main road that runs down. And as you walk through whichever street you choose, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you can see small little side streets, but as you keep going south, the houses get more and more sparse. As it starts creeping into the forest that's along the side of the river, and eventually you'll see the guards, and they are gathering up bodies and sort of putting them in carts. The bodies are a mixture of humans and non-humans, and amongst them are guards, the dead guards, obviously clearly humans and non-humans. Gustav is sort of kind of resting against a wall at the moment, sitting down. You'll see that he has a surgeon tending to him at the moment, to a wound in his side. And if you remember correctly, when he first approached you, he kind of had that wound when he first approached you, but now he's finally getting a chance to get it looked at. He sees you coming and kind of scowls at you.
I'm going to approach him, get kind of like uncomfortably close, watch the surgeon, see what he's doing.
The surgeon's kind of focused up on trying to heal the commander. Looks at you, sort of jumps back as he sees how close you are, and just kind of cocks an eyebrow at you, and notices that.
Pull Ms. back.
Okay.
This is like bandaging or actual healing?
Bandaging.
I asked the surgeon. I said, can I be of assistance?
He kind of looks at you sort of suspiciously, and then looks around and says, "Well, there's other wounded. I mean, if you know how to triage, that would help."
Yeah, I kind of got a crazed look in my eyes, seeing all the wounds and stuff here. But yeah, I'm gonna go and see if I can try to help. Maybe heal some, or not heal, but sew some people up or something.
Okay, it won't take you long to find another wounded guard. I mean, their wounds clearly aren't life-threatening because, otherwise they would be sort of, the surgeon would be doing more to help them. So you got cuts and scrapes, bruises. You find one guard who has a pretty good sizable gash in the side of his head. He's been holding part of his tunic against his head to stop the bleeding. And so you get you sit down or kneel down in front of him. He looks at you, not knowing who you are, trying to figure out what you're about. And when you pull out your tools to help heal, he kind of sees some of the crudity of these tools, and kind of looks at you and see him getting pale.
This will only hurt for a little while.
Okay. So roll a medicine check. Okay. So you pull out. I mean, you pull out the tools and you immediately start suturing his head, and each little prick of the needle as you pull thread through, you're gonna go, what the God, fuck. And you can just kind of you clearly discomforted. Again, because you have no way of anesthetizing him or numbing the pain, so he's experiencing it. But he seems grateful that at least as uncomfortable as it is to get the help.
Okay, I'll just continue working on people.
Okay. What about the others?
I'm going to get impatient and see if there's anything else. Are we kind of beyond the realm of buildings here? You mentioned they're getting pretty sparse at this point.
No, you're still in the town. This is where clearly a lot of the action had taken place, because that's where Gustav was.
I'm going to try to piece together a little bit of what happened, talk with people who might not be near death or, just kind of dazed or whatever, see if I can put together any semblance of what this fight was about, if it was just the humans or if there was anything peculiar about this one.
All right, so Gustav, seeing you start walking around and talking to people, kind of squints up and he points at you, or stands up as well as he can, still clutching his side as a surgeon, sort of, no, and he just pushes the surgeon aside, stands up, and then points back at the wound and lifts his arm up so the surgeon can continue working on him. And he looks at you and says, "Excuse me, if you want to ask questions, you want to direct them to me."
I'm not quite sure what you're implying here, sir.
These people have work to do. We need to figure things that are going out. I don't need strangers and outsiders investigating. If you want answers, or if you will have questions, I'll gladly entertain them.
Sure. It's just, so what was the situation that was happening down here as you were busy escorting us through town?
He sort of shakes his head and kind of looks at you and goes, I don't trust you guys. I just want you to understand this. I don't trust any one of you. But if you really need to know what was going on, as far as I can tell, when the madness started, fires were set up north, and the majority of the guard was sent that way. But the fires were merely a distraction. The main sort of attack happened down here.
And was this a coordinated attack? Was it an arbitrary attack? Was it humans against non-humans, or is there something else behind this?
He sort of sighs and goes, well, as far as coordination, if you can find order in all this chaos, I applaud you, sir, but I don't know. Yeah, most of the action was humans, but there were people that kind of wore these masks, and they were in the southern part of the town, and they were the ones doing the most amount of damage. I couldn't tell you if they were human or not.
What did the masks look like?
They were kind of skullish, and the eyes had sort of greenish hues to them.
Are there any deceased from this group that we could take a look at?
He looks around and says they gathered their dead. I don't know. It seemed like anytime we'd cut one down, there'd be two more to grab them and run away with them.
So this is sounding like it was a fairly orchestrated attack.
I guess you can say that.
Has anyone heard from Sasha?
He looks at you kind of confused. Why Sasha? She clearly would not have done this.
No, I'm just concerned about her. I heard that she was living out on the edge of town, so if she was away from all of this, if she got attacked individually.
He looks at you and then looks around at the guards and sort of, Corporal, and you hear a "Sah," and then a halfling comes up, and clearly a little bit worn himself, had been spending the night defending as much as he can. Gustav looks at the corporal and says, have you been by Sasha's house? And the corporal looks at him and just sort of shrugs his head. No, we've been here the entire time. And he looks at you and says, I guess I haven't thought to check on Sasha. No.
Would it be acceptable if a couple of us went out there to go take a look, since, you know, your guard is obviously got other things that they need to be concerned with?
He looks at you and says, well, it's not far from here. You're probably looking at a block further, points towards the southwest, and says you can't miss it. It's going to be in a clump of houses. It's going to stand out. It's going to look like the one house that doesn't belong.
Good to know. Thank you very much. We'll let you know what we find.
Was there any other, like, so I know the attack is on everyone's mind, but right before it started, was there anything else odd that you noticed that started up?
What do you mean?
Well, last night you were mentioning that someone was abducted, or something happened before the madness started.
He goes kind of, yes. I haven't gathered as much information on that just yet. A few of the townspeople had ran by saying that they had somebody over one of their shoulders when they disappeared into the south.
And that was those masked men again. They seemed to be wanting something. Thank you. And Gustav, I know we didn't meet on good terms last night, but I am genuinely happy to see that you have lived through the night, and I hope you have many more.
He grabs you and says, if you find out what's going on, you keep me in the loop.
I will ensure you're one of the first to know.
He nods at you.
And as we're walking away, I'm going to kind of whisper to him, you know, this is why you don't be nice unless you have to. Never pays off.
What, me be nice to people?
Yeah, you didn't need to make that comment to him. I mean, he was fine the way he was, and look how he treated you in return.
That's kind of my job. I mean, every town we go to, we have people who don't want to come. We got to be nice to them. I mean,
Well,
if we survive this...
There's being nice to go and drum up interest. There's being nice to putting on the show, but there's not necessarily going out of our way to, you know, what's in it for you? I mean, we get the people at the show, we get the butts in the seats. That's all we care about. That's the money in our pocket.
Well, yes, but if you're nice to them, they'll be your own advertisement, and they'll be they'll help you out at times. I'm trying to build some capital with people here.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if it turns out and works out for you.
All right. Well, hopefully this will turn out, because I think right now we're going to need all the capital we can get, especially if things start to go worse. All right, let's go check on Sasha.
Okay. So this part of town clearly did see a lot of the action. You see way more damage, a lot more bodies, including the guard, as I said before. You walk your way the 1 block southwest, and sure enough, it's really not going to be hard to spot the one house that doesn't belong in the clump of houses. It's not really the shack that Emma described, but it clearly looks like something a druid would have put together inside a city. So you see a lot of wood and mud instead of brick and mortar. There are plants growing outside. It clearly stands out as a druid shack. And the door, it looks like it had been beaten in.
Well,
For
I will
safety.
go and encourage the rest of my group to go and check that out and make sure she's safe.
I'll draw my sword and just start going towards the door and keeping an eye out for anything out of the ordinary.
All right. So as you make your way in, there is a body on the ground, and it is a half-elf woman, and it appears to be a druid.
I go up to her and just check to see if she's still alive or if she's actually completely dead.
All right. Make a medicine check.
Medicine is right there.
Fortunately, it's rather.
Balls.
As I say, fortunately, it's a rather easy check. I mean, you do your best to figure out where the pulse is, and you place your fingers, on the wrist where you've seen other people do it, and you place it underneath the jaw where you've seen other people do it, but you don't detect anything, and she does feel somewhat colder.
I would like to investigate as well.
All right. So when you go to investigate, given your curiosity about all things dead, you begin examining the body, and you find multiple stab wounds that look like they would have come from small blades.
Okay, I will share that with the group.
How long has this happened? Is this part of the chaos from last night, or has she been dead for less time than that?
Ms., make a medicine check. Your best guess is that her death was rather recent.
I'm going to search around in her house to see if I can find anything of interest.
Okay, I want you to roll investigation. Most of the house seems to be somewhat in order. It does have about as many rooms as the house you stayed in. So you have a living space, you have a bedroom, you have a washroom, bathroom kind of thing, and you have your kitchen. But off in a closet, or what looks like would have been a closet, you notice that there is a trap door that is opened.
All right, I'll check in it.
Okay. So as you go down a ladder. The basement, if you will, was meant to be well hidden. It is well furnished. You'll see a number of books on a bookshelf. You'll see a kind of a study, sort of a desk with candles and a pretty nice bed for given that it's hidden in a shelter. The bed looks like it was recently slept in. And on the On the desk is some writing, but you don't recognize the script.
Can I pick up some? I'll bring it out and be like, hey, anybody tell what this is?
All right.
I would like to go down and investigate the lower level too.
All right. 1 second. I gotta answer your question. So do any of you read Infernal?
Nope.
No, we do not.
Alas, I do not.
Nope.
All right, so to you, the script looks jagged and rough, but when you look at it, you can't really tell make out any words.
Am I able to tell that that's what it is? Like, I can, you know how.
Make a knowledge check.
What the hell is my knowledge? I have no knowledge. I'm stupid.
Asked every college student in the history ever.
Which one is that? I don't see knowledge.
Isn't it knowledge? Is there? I'm thinking of something else.
There's history, insight,
Yeah.
maybe investigation.
Make an intelligence check.
I'm gonna be searching around the rest of the room down below to see if anything.
I don't see that either.
It should be in your your front page there. Let me see if I can find it for you.
I think it's on skilled at the bottom. There's like an unskilled intelligence check.
Okay.
Yep.
There you go.
You can. The best guess is that it's infernal or abyssal.
So like elemental. Like I'm kind of like this must be some kind of elemental.
It doesn't look like being elven. You know it's not elven. You know it's not common. You've probably encountered enough dwarven in your lifetime to know it's not dwarven. So, being that it's jagged, you assume that something sinister would have written it, and based on that, you can kind of surmise that likely would be infernal or abyssal.
Why would the druid have something like this?
Are you asking me or are you asking the group?
Asking the group.
That is a great question. I don't think so. I don't know why a druid would have abyssal on them.
Should we grab these and see if we can find someone who knows this in town?
That would be a wise choice.
I think it would probably be a good thing.
Alright, I'll gather up what I can find in there and try to put it together in something so we can take it back to town.
Hey, GM, I'm gonna hop in real quick and just take a quick look around the building and see if there's anything that might be of interest to me personally.
Okay, while you're out there, roll a nature check.
That button isn't on this page. I have to scroll.
So while you're out there investigating outside, when you look at the ground, you can tell that a lot of footprints were around this house. It's confusing to tell what was what. I mean, you can tell it's humanoid footprints of some kind, but a lot of activity seemed to have recently happened around this house itself.
Are they like human-sized footprints, or are they smaller?
You can't make out so much trampling around this area that you can't make out distinguished footprints. You can just tell that a lot of walking around had been done in this particular area.
Cool. So there's no way to tell where these would have come from.
No, you wouldn't. Based on what you can see from outside, you can't tell. I mean, you would be able to guess there was probably some humans and the common races, but you can't make out any specific footprint to be able to follow it or to tell exactly what it was.
So is this like kind of like along the road in front of the house, or is this like going into and out of the house?
Into, out of, and around the house.
Okay. I'm gonna go in and share that knowledge with the crew, and then take a look around the building as well, like inside the building.
Yeah, I want to take a gander inside as well, just to see if there's a little bit more for the upstairs part, not the downstairs.
Okay.
And I'm still searching the downstairs as well. Was there anything else down there?
Not much. I mean, you'll find some clothes. A lot of it, what you'll find is a lot of dark clothes, a lot of black clothes. A lot of the tops are hooded, and a lot of the pants that you find would accommodate what would look like a tail. Upstairs, you'll find a diary again of Sasha's, and it will talk a lot about the same things that sort of Mia had talked about. That you can tell from her story that Sasha was in the Ghostwood one particular evening when she was attacked, and she realized that she was attacked in a dream by a devilish figure who raped her while the forest around her was burning. And when he finished, he looked up towards the sky and began dancing and laughing before he looked at her, patted her on the stomach and said, "Sleep." And that's when she woke up, realizing that she had a dream. 9 months later, she had given birth to a child, a tiefling child.
Well, shall we return to Goosty back there and let him know that?
One other important piece of information I should mention: in the diary, she keeps mentioning fears of he's looking for us, or he is trying to find him, or he may have found us. Things like that. So it sounds like she has been running from someone.
I'm gonna talk with the group here and see which parts of this that we should share with Gustav, because I don't know that with how he's acting towards us, the fact that we are the only God, I understand part of that comes from fear, but there seems to be a piece of him hiding something as well, so I'm not entirely sure I trust him. So I'm trying to see, hey group, what do we want to bring back to him? Because we've checked this out. He's going to be expecting some sort of answer. We obviously need to tell him that Sasha is dead, and we can tell him how she died. But what about the diary? What about the footprints? What about the basement? Do we make mention of any of this stuff?
I think we need to find a scholar first, or someone who can read these to tell us what's going on.
I don't think we should mention the books to anybody. I think what we've discovered here, we probably should tell them, because they'll be able to come here and find out anyway. So at least they can make us look like we're still being honest with them, at least selectively so. But I think we should take the books with us, but I think we should be very careful about who we tell this to.
Agreed. Would you like me to do the talking with Gustav? We seem to be good pals.
I am good at bluffing if needed, but I would defer to you if you want.
Well, the one thing we know is that whatever's going on, it wasn't us that caused it. We don't know whether or not any of these people caused it or not, so we need to be careful.
Yes, I understand that and agree with you completely. Unfortunately, right now, Gustav is kind of the figure of authority in this town. So, as long as he is in that role, we do need to show at least a little deference to him.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, they probably need to come out here and bury her at least.
Okay, well, I'm going to head back to have a little conversation with Gusti.
I want to go out and look around the woods in this area.
I'm fine going back alone, too, if you guys want to keep investigating.
Where was the circus? Was the circus more on the north side of town?
Straight west. So
Straight west, okay.
the town is kind of not really quartered, but cut in half. So you have a sort of main road that leads out of the town that went right about halfway through the town. It meets into a sort of town square that's closer to the river's edge, and that's where there would be a fountain where you were doing your announcements yesterday, and then on the that's where the church would be. And then further south. I do have a diagram of the town. It's just a map of another town, of a real existing town. But hang on a second, and I'll pop it up here.
Holy shit, this is Fargo.
That's not it. All right, so 1 second here. I'm gonna make this a handout. Okay, so that is the map of the town. Not a very big map, but you can kind of see the road that leads out. So you'd probably be that the west of that pinkish area towards the top of the map. That would be where you would be. Right now, you're down towards that sparse pink area on the west end of the map, probably in the first column of squares. Oop, we lost someone. Got it back. And the main castle or the manor is the biggest red square towards the middle center to the right. That's where the main castle would be. Town Square is a little bit south of the middle of the map, or I guess west of the middle of the map. But as this map is oriented east and west, but it's actually north is on the right-hand side of the map, south is on the left-hand side of the map.
My mind is blown.
So we were on the top of the map in the circus.
Yes.
Where was the house that was on the hill that I saw?
That is the biggest red square towards the third column in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares from the left. Or third row, 6 squares. Third row, 6 column from the left. Or from the right, I mean. And yes, I did base this town off of St. Goar, Germany. It's one of the towns I would love to go back and visit.
All right, well, I want to check out kind of the woods and see what's going on, like if I can find anything in this immediate area.
Okay.
Is this part of the woods where the labor guy wandered off to? I'm trying to remember his name. Wilhelm.
He may have gone off that way. You wouldn't know that immediately if he went off that way. But the woods, so the town itself, and I wish I could picture this, show a picture of this, but the town itself is in the center of it's in a cleared out. It's in the center of a wooded area. It's like, you know how a major river has a lot of trees around it, along its banks. That's kind of what it is. So the town is in a river valley. So as you leave west, you're going uphill, and on either side of the road there would be heavily wooded areas where there isn't houses. And if you get to the top of the hill, that forest kind of sort of dissipates because it's no longer along the river. It's now in farmland. But if you stood on top of the hill, you'd see thick clumps of trees going to the north and to the south on either side of the river. There's a good chance that's where you went to. You could have gone to the north too. You don't necessarily know that without doing a little bit more investigation.
Okay.
I want to try to move my way towards that big house I saw burning.
Okay. Okay, let's do this one at a time. Naya's gonna go towards the burning mansion. Orcum, sorry. Blech.
So Naya's going to the burning mansion. I think Ozzer was going to talk with. I'll go over with Ozzer to chat with Gustav.
Hey, you don't trust me.
And Ms.
I'll go with Naya towards the house, the burning house.
I'll mention to Miz, like, hey, when I was in behind the tents, I saw this place burning before anything else had happened.
You said it to Ms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's as good as a place as any to go check out.
And just to kind of like, I saw this, it got my attention. I'm curious what's going on up there. So.
All right, so you separate into two groups. Ms. and Naya going towards the burning, or the what? It's not burning anymore. It's probably burnt down, but the mansion that was on the top of the hill. And Ozzer and Orcum head off to see Gustav. And so we'll start with you two. You go to your.
First off, real quick, do we know where they're going? That they're heading off in that direction?
Unless they told you.
Well, you may have heard me mentioning, like, I'm kind of saying to Miz, like, I saw that place burning when I was behind the tents before anything really started.
Okay, just so I know after we're done talking with Gustav if we know where to go or not.
Cool, so we're talking to Gusti.
Okay. I'll start with you two because it's going to take you less time to get to where you're going. You walk your one block northeast, and you find Gustav still again being attended to by the surgeon, who seems to be pretty much dressing the bandages now, or dressing the wound now. Seems to stop whatever bleeding was going on. Every once in a while, a soldier will approach him, hand him a parchment, and as he looks over the parchment, you see him getting pale, nodding and handing it back to the soldier, and sees you coming and says, "So, what did you find out about Sasha?"
Unfortunately, we found Sasha's body. It looks like she's been stabbed repeatedly by some sort of instrument. From what Ms. is able to tell us, it seemed like this happened after the chaos. So we have some things that we're going to want to, follow up on, and we're going to keep looking around. But we want to make sure that yours and ours investigations are on the same pages.
Again, you kind of see him get that pale look at the mention of Sasha's death, and he looks at you and goes, "Okay, I'm sorry. You forgive me in the chaos. I didn't really get a chance to understand who you are. Ms. is who?"
Ms. is our person whose fascination with wounds, so we figured she was the best person for the job.
He nods and goes,
The same one that was interested in helping your soldiers.
So he says, okay, the creepy one. And he looks at you, Orcam, and says, in your name is?
I'm Orkin. We had a fairly thorough chat last night when you came to try to arrest us.
And then he points at Ozer.
Yep, you can call me Ozer, that works.
Okay, and then the other two that we brought, well, I guess he knows who Madame Crow is because he brought her, but he doesn't know the other survivor was survivors were Madame Crow and Gavin, and I probably should have put them in that house with you guys, but I completely forgot about those two being alive. But retroaction comic book, woof, they are back at the house. He knows who Madame Crow is, and he asks about the other three that were with you.
Naya is our creature handler. She is responsible for all of our animal acts. Kind of an outdoor chick, good person. And the other guy just disappeared into thin air. We're not sure what happened to him, but
We'll say that because he did take a good beating, he's still resting in the house.
last we saw him, he was still resting in the house. So we'll just yeah.
He's pretty fierce. He can take a lot, but he kind of needs to rest it off.
I rested it off during the battle, so I'm feeling pretty good right now. Is there anything else you want to know from us, or
Well, he says, well, so you said Sasha was stabbed?
yeah, when Ms. did the initial investigation, she found several stab wounds in there, which, from our limited knowledge, we're not medical experts by any means, but we were able to discern that seemed to be how she died.
He runs his hand through his hair, and he's trying to digest the information, and he looks at you and says, "Did she seem like she defended herself?" Well, there wasn't any indication. Like, all the people were here. It didn't seem like. And he looks back at the corporal. Goes, "Corporal, sir!" The little halfling reappears. Goes, "Check out Sasha's place. They're saying that she was stabbed multiple times. If that's true, that meant that there was an attack. This was a coordinated effort, and if that's the case, then we need to better prepare, because who knows what's going to happen again." The halfling nods his head and grabs another halfling, and the two of them run off towards the house.
Just between you and me, sir, I think that's a very wise decision. Obviously we're not fighting folk, and we're circus folk, but we've been around to a lot of different towns, and we've seen a lot of different situations, and this seems like something a lot more beyond random circumstance. There's some sort of coordination behind that, and I think that you're wise to treat this as something that could happen again.
He nods and says, "Thanks for your opinion. I didn't ask for it."
No. Glad to be of service to you, sir.
He sighs and realizes he just says, "Look, I understand that I'm being rather harsh with you, but understand that from where I'm at right now, when I got up yesterday morning, I was just a sergeant in this guard, and now I'm supposed to be leading this fucking defense, and I have no idea what's going on. So I'm not accustomed to having to process information on the fly and figure things out. So unless you..."
No, understood, sir, because, when I got up yesterday, I was looking forward to putting on a show and getting a good night of sleep, and obviously our roles have completely changed, and we're on the same team here. I just wanted you to be aware of it.
He looks and says, "Okay, I understand, but I'm just saying, if I seem curt with you, just realize that none of us are in a comfortable position right now."
Fully understood, sir.
He looks and he says, discover anything else?
We found really nothing of note. We're just trying to figure out, what would have possibly caused this, and we're shooting pretty blind here as well.
He nods and says, "Very well. Do you need anything?"
We're still going to investigate around the town, see if we can put any pieces together. As long as we have your permission to talk with people, we don't want to step on your investigation, but we want to get some information, and we'll definitely be keeping you in the loop as well.
All right, if you're going to talk to them, fine, but I can't promise you that they're going to tell you anything because right now they're not going to be very trusting of strangers.
I don't know if they're going to be very trusting of anybody considering what happened last night.
He looks at you and says, "Exactly."
Well, you just go and leave this all up to us. So we'll do our part, and we'll coordinate with you, and we'll get to the bottom of this together.
He says, "Thanks, but I will not be leaving it all up to you. As far as I can see in this is a coordinated effort. I am still in charge, however. You do what I say."
Oh, understood.
And he says, "Do whatever you need to do. Any more important information, please bring it to me."
Certainly, we wouldn't have it any other way.
All right, so do you have any other questions or anything else you need to tell him?
I'm good. I'm going to go find the rest of our group.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're trying to see if we can locate where some of our animals wandered off to, just to make sure they're okay.
He looks at you and says, wait, what?
Well, during the kerfuffle at the circus, some of the animals got out. They're not like just some circus performers. Like they're fairly tame. They're fairly docile. Just some of, if any of our animals survived.
He takes a deep breath and goes, you're telling me that there's wild animals roaming around this area now? Like, not like tigers and shit?
No, I'm talking like horses and other kind of work animals as well. We if we're going to get out of this, I want to know like what resources do we have, and especially if we're going to have more defense of the city, what can we use?
You can use what you have on you and what you can acquire. I'm not giving you anything if that's what you're asking.
No, I said we're going to go look in the forest and try to find some of the animals that might have escaped from our circus. We're not asking for anything right now. Although if you did have a short bow, I wouldn't object, but I'm not asking for one.
You might visit Yegor's Forged for any kind of weapons. I can't promise you that he's going to have anything because he usually supplies the guard, but I need to know something from you, and I need to know it from you right now. Because my guards are going to have to roam out into the forests to figure things out. Are they going to come across any dangerous predatory animals?
If they come across anything from the circus, they have been trained not to harm humans.
He looks and says, I swear to the gods, if any of my guards get mauled by some vicious fucking animal, I will take it out on your hides.
Well, in that case, I would tell them to watch out for the donkeys. They're kind of an ass.
He just kind of scowls at you and says, "Get the fuck out of my face."
Pleasurable as always to talk with you, Gustav.
All right. So as you wander off, we head back to Ms. and Naya, who have made their way towards the base of the hill upon which the mansion sets. And at the base of that hill, there is a gate, and outside that gate are two guards, both of them half-elves. And as you approach, they each carry two glaives, and they sort of cross them and says, what's your business?
Can we see the house or see where it was? Or
He points up at the hill and says, "It was there."
I'm just asking. Can we physically see the location of the house where it was?
There's not much to look at. What are you looking for?
I mean, is it all burnt down? There's nothing but rubble?
He looks up and says, well, before I looked up there, I could see a house. Now I look up there and I don't see one. So I guess it'd be safe to say that, yeah, it fucking burnt to the ground.
So why are you out here?
Because Gustav told us to sit out here and make nobody through.
Is there an obvious way around the gate or a different way from the backside or something to go to?
Make an investigation check with advantage because Naya is very, very good at scouting these kinds of things.
For both of us?
No, it's just because I'm going to be under the assistance that you are helping him scout or helping her scout the area.
Yeah.
So I had her do it with advantage. So instead of having two people roll, you just have just one roll, but one with advantage. And so you rolled an 18, and so Dilworth, what the hell? So so you as Naya's talking with the guard, you're kind of looking around, and you can see that this fence is a perimeter fence. Clearly meant for defense of the person that lived on the mansion, but it's at the base of a hill, and the hill itself is actually heavily wooded. So there's one main road that leads up to it, and there's woods on either side, or I guess to say lots of trees on either side. It's not really woods, but you can tell that the fence kind of disappears up the hill into the trees. So there might be a way to climb over the fence using the trees a little further up the on the western side of the road leading up.
Who lived here?
One second. The Baron Otto Bergman. He was I guess the leader of the town. I wouldn't say the mayor. He was the Baron. It's a Baron. It's a barony.
Where is he? Was he inside?
He looks over at the other guard, and the guard kind of shakes his head and shrugs. And the other guard, the guard looks at you and says, "Who are you?"
We're at the circus. We're performers. Whatever this madness is, it hit us as well. I saw it burning before all of this happened, so it seems it started here from what I can tell. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
He says, I thought you guys were supposed to be arrested."
Arrested for what?
"I don't know. Last I heard, Gustav went off to arrest you."
He just escorted us to the town.
"Does he know you're out here?"
He knows we're out researching, yes.
Okay, make a persuasion check.
Not very persuasive.
He looks at you and says, "I don't think I need to tell you too much right now. If you want to know what happened up here, you ask Gustav."
Alright, it seems odd that you guys are up here defending a burnt down structure and there's no one here.
We're not defending, we're protecting evidence.
Well, while they're talking, I'm just gonna start wandering off away from this area, just kind of looking up, kicking a stone, kind of walking around, just not paying attention at all. Walking off.
Okay, so yeah, by the way, have you seen a panther?
He looks at you and says, I'm sorry, what?
A panther. Yeah. I kind of lost him.
So you're telling me that there is a wild fucking cat roaming free?
He's not very wild. I mean, he looks wild, but if you've got treats, he's very tame.
What kind of treats are we talking about here? Because last I heard, I would look like a pretty tasty treat to a fucking panther.
Not really. He's well fed. He doesn't need to eat people.
No, I haven't seen a panther, and last I checked, I haven't shit my pants, so I haven't seen a panther. So if you find it, please let us know that we're safe. There's only the two of us, and I will not be afraid. I will not hesitate to cut your fucking cat down.
Just tell me if you find it. I can get it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I'll scream loud enough for you to hear me.
So while they're talking, I'm going to cast a dancing light spell. I don't know. Does the fence run north, south, east, west? Which way does it run?
It runs along a perimeter. So from where you're standing right now, it runs west and east, and it goes east until it gets to a certain road, and then it goes north.
Okay, I'm gonna cast the lights off to one direction, to the east, I guess, then, and try to some flickering lights, some kind of flame, whatever, something to try to draw some attention that way.
Okay.
And I guess my goal here is to get the lights that way, and then get a chance to hide, and I want to move the opposite direction.
All right.
So this house is up on a hill, right? So we can see the town really well from here.
You would be able to see the entire town from up on top of that hill. Yes.
All right, I'm gonna try to kind of move where I can to get the most ideal image of the town, because I kind of want to get an idea of like where would someone have been if they were starting something here and attacking the town.
Okay. So, Ms., make a stealth check with advantage. All right. So when you do your flickering light spell, the guards kind of look off and see it, and they kind of squint their eyes. But as you start to move away, they turn and look at you and goes, "Where are you going?"
Just going to check in with Gustav.
You're going the wrong way there, sweetie. He's that way, and points to the south.
All right, I'm just going to walk off far enough so that they just run within sight. I just want to try to find a place to cross this fence.
Okay. Anaya, what do you do?
So like the town is south, so I'm gonna move towards the south side of the house, outside the gate.
Okay, so just so you know that the hill going up from where you are is roughly about a quarter of a mile up. So, I guess not really a quarter of a mile straight up. You know what I mean? That the road kind of is going to take you about a quarter of a mile before the actual house. So,
And I kind of want to try to see like, is there a good spot where I can be where I'm, I can see the house, I can see where the circus was, and I can see where the town is.
yeah. So if you were able to make it to the top of that hill, which right now 2 guards are impeding you from doing, you would be able to see where the circus was and the entirety of the town from where you're standing if you stood on top of the hill.
Alright, I suppose I should probably try to see if I can find my panther. Kind of say that to the guards.
He looks at you and says, "Yeah, I kind of wish you would."
He probably is someplace between us and the circus, and I point towards where the circus is.
And he looks off that way and goes, "I'm not following you."
Are you sure you haven't seen him?
He goes, "Lady, I haven't seen your fucking cat. Go the fuck away."
Okay, when I'm out of sight, I'm going to work my way to the west and try to find a place to cross over the fence.
Okay.
I'm gonna head off. Basically, I'm going west, right? 'Cause I'm going towards the circus.
Yeah, they're gonna keep their eye on you as you move that way. So they're gonna be looking off towards the west as you move.
Okay, well, you said there's trees around here too, right? So if I just get out of sight, I can be out of this normal distance. It's dark out, so.
Yeah. So, but they are half elves, so they do have night vision. So roll another stealth check. Okay, so they are keeping their eyes on Naya as she moves up the fence, but you have disappeared from their vision, so they don't know where you are as far as you know.
Okay, I want to try to find a spot with a tree or something that's easier to cross over.
Okay. You roam around and you get close enough to the fence. The fence itself is roughly 15 feet high, and at the top of the fence is clearly defenses meant to keep people from climbing over it. The trees sort of snake through, so if you find the right tree with a strong enough branch, and these are they're not like oak trees, they're more like fir trees. So you know how fir tree branches aren't exactly the most sturdiest things on the earth when it comes to being able to put a lot of weight on them. So I mean, they're very, very flexible. So you might have a little bit of trouble climbing or using one as a bridge across the the top of the fence, but you can give it a shot.
Okay, well, I'm 5'2" and 110 pounds with no armor on, so.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'll give it a whirl. What's that?
Do an acrobatics check.
Looks like I just vaulted over the whole top of the thing.
Holy shit. You are so adept at climbing this fucking tree that you're almost like a cat. So you get to a point 15 feet, 16 feet, 17 feet up the tree, and you get out to one of the branches and you sort of test it with your foot to make sure that it won't break on you. Then when you finally put enough weight on it, you know that it bends a little bit, but it's not really giving way, not seeming like it's gonna make you fall. So you let go of the base, the trunk, and you sort of balance your way across on this tree, and it is an amazing feat to see. Like, if Madame Crow right now was looking at you, she'd say, "Why aren't you on the tightrope? Why aren't you on the trapeze? Why are you talking to the dead?" But you managed to quickly one foot in front of the other, very fast, make your way past the top of the fence, and you spring yourself down and drop yourself down the 15 feet, gracefully landing on your feet on the other side of the fence.
Ta-da!
She says to no one around.
Okay, I do want to go try to get to the top of the hill and see if I can investigate the house that was there, the burned structure.
Okay. And so it takes you a little more than a couple of minutes just to climb up, because the hill itself is somewhat steep. It's meant to slow down invaders from getting to the top of the hill, given the amount of trees that you'd have. So it would take an army a good amount of effort to get up, especially if at the top of the hill there's a defense, and when you would expect from something like of a baron's castle. When you get to the top, the house is indeed pretty much rubble. It's smoldering, smoky, but as you look around, you can see, as I said before, pretty much everything from the top of this hill. When you look off to the west, you can still see the smolder, the smoke and fire from the circus. When you look at the northern edge of the town, you can see that's indeed where a lot of the fires were. A lot of the buildings are now smoking. They're not so much on fire, but there's a good amount of guard still, and townsfolk still trying to put out fires in several of the houses. To the south, as you follow your way from the north to the south, you'll see that the collection of bodies gets more and more steady as you look down to the south. In fact, and that's indeed where a lot of the action was. Roll a knowledge check or an intelligence check. Not a saving throw, just an intelligence check. So it'll be in your unskilled intelligence.
Yeah, where's that at?
It's like down on the bottom.
Yep, same page, but on the bottom.
No idea. Well, I rolled a 14.
Well, it's down on the bottom under the other section. It should say unskilled in.
So if you look at your skills. Oops.
Right under your skills, sir.
Yep, right underneath your skills, there's the custom 1, custom 2, custom 3, custom 4, and then at the bottom is the other.
Okay, different page.
Okay. Basically, you know what I told you.
Okay, I want to investigate the around the burned house, the structure, look for anything out of the ordinary, anything odd.
Okay, roll investigation.
Are there any bodies around here at all?
There is not, actually.
Oh, I'm bad at this.
Yeah. So as you roam around the base of the house, the rubble where this mansion once was, you don't see anything that really stands out to you, other than the fact that at some point in time, this place caught fire. You don't know how. You don't see any tracks leading up to it or away from it. It just seems like this place caught fire and burned to the ground.
Okay, you said there were no bodies, nothing on besides just the burned house.
Nope, no bodies in the base of the no bodies outside of this house.
Okay, I'm gonna cast detect magic in this area. Walk around again.
Okay. I'm sorry. You cast what?
Detect magic.
All right. You don't actually detect anything magical.
All right. So now I gotta roll another natural 20 to get back over the fence.
Well, I didn't say you had to roll a natural 20. You just did it that time. So I'm going to say because you did roll a pretty high acrobatics check that you know that branch can hold you. So you make but you do have to climb up the fence. So make an athletics check to climb up the fence.
Actually, I just want to walk back to the gate. Just walk back out where I was going from it originally.
Okay, bold move. All right, so you walk down the hill, and as you get towards the bottom where the gate is, they can hear your footsteps, and they turn around, look at you. What the fuck? What? How did you? What? Get your ass over
I'm
here.
trying to be secretive either. I'm just walking straight up there and still maintaining my detect magic. I can do that for 10 minutes.
Yep. And so they open up the gate and they grab you by the arms and they drag you out and said, "How did you do that? How did you get in this? How did you get on this side of the fence?"
I just kind of wink and hold up my dead squirrel.
He takes one of the guards takes the dead squirrel from you and puts it in kind of his like his belt where his sheath would be, and they immediately grab you by the arms and they tie your hands behind your back. So they basically place you under arrest and then sit you down next to the fence and they say you're going to wait right there until Gustav returns.
All right, I just sit there docilely and just smile at him.
All right. So as of right now, Ms. is currently under arrest. Naya, Ozer, or Orcum, do you have anything you would like to do?
Are we up to the house yet?
You'd be pretty much right about to the base of the hill.
I'm gonna seriously just point and laugh at him or her.
One of the guards looks and says, "Help you?"
What happened to our friend here? Don't tell me the squirrel did something.
Well, the squirrel did nothing because it's fucking dead. This one belongs to you, and he points at Ms.
Yeah, we were done talking with Gustav, and they were wandering off to go check up here to see what's going on.
I'm not gonna say she belongs to us because I'm not sure that we're claiming her yet.
And said he looks at you and says, "You saw Gustav, huh?"
Yep, we had a bit of chat with him. We were helping him trying to investigate stuff since your town guard is fairly well depleted at this point.
What do you mean you're helping him investigate?
Well, it's not like anything weird is going on right now that requires investigation.
Yeah, to be a little bit more polite in saying it, where the same situation that has impacted this town has impacted our circus as well. As of right now, we really don't have a circus to go back to or another town to go to until this is resolved. So we've had a talk with Gustav and realized it's in all of our best interests to help the town resolve this.
He looks at you. He looks at you. Looks at his partner. Looks at you again. You're helping.
We're helping Gustav. We just got done talking to him, and we're all just trying to figure out what's going on in this town, so we can get out of here. You guys can start putting together your lives again.
We were investigating Sasha's shack, and after we got done with that, we came up here.
He looks at you and says, "But Gustav is okay with this."
Yes,
well,
Gustav has given us permission to go and help with his investigation as long as we're working with him. So
okay is a strong word. Okay is a strong word, but he has agreed to take our help for now.
Roll persuasion. He squints at you and looks over at the other guard, and the guard again shrugs his shoulders, and he goes, all right, fine." And then he kneels down and loosens up Mrs. Bindings and says, "But keep this one the fuck away from me."
Well, I'm not sure we want her either.
Well, she's your responsibility now.
Damn it. Okay, thank you. By the way, have you guys seen a panther?
What the fuck is with this? No, seriously, no. We've not seen a goddamn panther.
Okay, well, you just keep your eyes out.
I'm gonna point at the guard that's holding the squirrel, and start gesturing. My eyes start to glow a bit, and mage hand and grab the squirrel back out.
So as he sees that, he kind of puts his glaive down and points it right at you, and then he sees the squirrel float by, and he just sort of keeps on his guard with the glaive ready to attack you.
Okay. I just grab the squirrel out of the air, smile, and turn around and walk away.
And as you walk away, the two guards look at each other once again, and they just the one that keeps shrugging his shoulders just shrugs his shoulders.
Okay, let's leave these guys alone. Come on, guys, and grab the two of them and get a very exaggerated display of frustration and start stomping off back down away from the front of this place.
While we're walking, I just fire off a message towards Ms. and say, like, what did you do?
So, Ms., you would hear a whisper, and it's clearly Orcham's voice in your head saying exactly that. And you can respond back to him, so it's telekinetic, so you can think you respond back to him, and the others wouldn't hear it.
Okay. I'll just give a brief impression, or I guess a brief description of exactly what I did. I climbed, investigated, didn't see anything out of the ordinary around the house or with the town. Didn't find anything magical, so.
Basically, what he described what he said before too, that the fires were contained to the north, but as you go further to the south, more and more bodies piled up.
Gotcha.
So, Biz, do you know where the hell Naya ended up?
She said something about looking for her cat.
Well, let's go head towards the circus and see if there's anything around there that's still salvageable, or if there is a giant cat that wants to eat us.
All right. So the three of you are going to start making your way towards the circus. Naya?
I've been out in the forest going towards the circus, trying to find my cat and any of the other animals that I freed.
Okay. So the four of you make your way towards the circus. And eventually you come across, or eventually you make your way up to the circus. And the circus itself is, obviously it's in ruins. It's gone. The main tent is smoldering. There are bodies. Clearly, the body of Wilhelm and his thugs are still there. The body of Harkin. The various people that tried to escape the fire or tried to escape. Some of them have been beaten and trampled down, cut down. Most of the tents are destroyed. But as you make your way through, you happen to catch a red-skinned person sort of wandering the circus grounds, and he's got two horns that curve back from his head and a kind of goatee. And he sees you coming and doesn't really say anything. He just sort of stands right there in the middle of the grounds.
Well, I'm going to approach him and introduce myself.
And says, how you doing?
I'm doing well considering the circumstances. What brings you to our performance? You would have been much better to attend last night, where a lot more exciting.
Well, I heard that it was in town. I don't usually. I'm not from these parts. I was kind of, I wander around the region a lot, and I was kind of. I've never been to a carnival, and so I kind of came to see what was going on. But looks like there was a little bit more than a carnival here.
Yeah, things kind of took kind of a weird turn. Are still weird, as you can tell by the fact that noon, and still feels like the middle of the night.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
It is. So, where parts are you from?
Oh, I'm from the Retrata Empire. It's a small town on the border.
The name of the town is Retrata Empire? I am so confused at this point.
Oh, silly person. The Retrata Empire is the huge empire to the west of Vulcanwald.
Well, that makes more sense because it'd be really arrogant of a small town to name it.
Nah, the town I'm come from is called Westwood.
There, now I'm less confused. Well, I'm sorry that you didn't get to see one of our shows, but, if we ever get this thing back up and running again, we'll definitely try to make it down to your parts and hopefully have a much less eventful night. But so, have you found anything while you're looking around up here? We're just finally getting back up here after the chaos of last night.
Only what I see here, a burnt down, wrecked circus grounds. What brings you back here?
We're looking for a deadly panther.
A panther, huh? So you guys actually have like so as a kid I kind of heard about these they like animal tamers. You have one of those?
Well, if she knew where her animals were, yes, we could call it that.
It's a she. What's her name?
Oh, she goes by. Do you have a stage name, Naya? Or do you just call her? Huh?
Just Naya.
Well, she goes by Naya. She's fairly well renowned.
He looks and says, "Naya, huh? That's a nice name. Is she okay? Did she make it through this?"
She seems as fine as we can tell.
Good. So curiously, what does it take to set up something like this?
It takes a really overbearing taskmaster that's not dead. It takes a whole lot of willing performers that are willing to put themselves out there every single night. It takes some talented individuals to make sure all the logistics are handled. And this is a big deal. We get this thing set up in less than a day, and we go and put on a show that night. Took a pretty good army of people who are all really great at what they do to get this thing even up and running.
He says, I mean, like laborers. You guys have laborers?
We did.
You must take a lot of strong laborers. You guys had some strong laborers. Is that the case?
We did.
Are we talking like dwarves or half orcs? What kind of laborers?
We don't discriminate.
So, I mean, do you find like you have like the stronger half orcs that do a lot of work around here?
If we had some that were willing, yes.
But you don't have any now.
We're still trying to figure out where everybody ended up. Still have some around here, but honestly, we're just trying to figure out where people ended up after last night's chaos.
I pardon me for being persistent, but so you did have at least one half orc laborer.
I believe so. I wasn't really involved with the labor myself. I was more part of the talent, but I seem to remember perhaps some half orcs walking around here. I would assume that would be their role.
Okay. So I've never really seen, as strange as this might seem, I've never really seen a half orc. Could you describe one for me?
They're a little bit bigger than a human. Depends on, they kind of vary by person as well. Just like no two humans look quite the same.
So, like, let's say, for instance, this half-orc laborer or laborers you might have known. Could you maybe describe one of those to me? Like, give me a good description of what he might look like?
You seem to me that you're fishing for something here. Why don't you just come out and say it?
No, I'm not fishing for anything. I'm just curious. Look, I need something to keep me entertained. I was looking for a circus, and I guess call me a curious person looking for more knowledge of the world.
See, I read people for a living, and your questions are getting kind of specific for what you're going by here. So, why don't you be on the level with me?
Okay, I want you to roll insight check.
Natural 20.
Yeah, he's completely filling you with shit.
Yeah. Well, duh. Come on. I'm the ringmaster. That's what I do, is fill people with shit.
All right, so he gets I don't mean to. It's just I've got a friend looking for someone named Oleg. Have you heard of him?
The name might be familiar. What would you like to know about him?
He just checking up on whether or not this Oleg person was okay. That's all I'm trying to do. I was sent to find him, see if he was okay, and then report back the good news.
The last contact I had, he was still alive.
Excellent, thanks. He looks around and either way and goes, so is that town, is that in good shape?
Not particularly. They got hit as hard as a circus.
Well, from here it looks like there's still some buildings standing in the town.
Well, if you can see it through the smoke, yes, there are some buildings still standing, but not many.
Excellent. Do you think there might be some place a guy can get something to eat in town?
Doesn't hurt to go down and ask around.
Indeed it does, my friend. Sorry about the mess. Best of luck getting back into the swing of things, and hopefully maybe I can see you guys down the road.
We'd be glad to have you at one of our shows.
He nods and then heads off towards the town. I
wave goodbye heartily.
Okay. So you four are now standing. Well, Alec looks like he's at least somewhat here. I don't know if he made his way up from the town or not after waking up, but he could be or could not be.
Still trying to get context of where I might be.
Right. For the purposes of most of the thing, we say that you took the biggest beating of all, so that you'd been resting inside the house they brought you to. So, you can still stay in the house and resting. In fact, at this point, because that guy was talking about you, you probably he hasn't seen you, so he probably doesn't know that you would be there. But if you, from where you are, if you want to start making your way around and try to figure out where things are, you can. I'm going to stick with them a little bit longer because we don't have too much time left. So the four of you are now standing on the circus grounds. Anything you'd like to do?
I'd like to see if any of my belongings arrived.
Yeah, I'm gonna check out my trailer as well.
Okay. So for the most part, the circus is complete ruins. Things were set fire to, including your tents and everything. Alec did go into the labor master's tent to search around and didn't see anything that he was aware of, other than a bedroll, which I believe he took. But most of your things, no, not much of anything survived. The circus is in complete ruins. Madame Crow is pretty much out of a living. You guys are out of a living until you find some way to rebuild this thing.
Oh, what do you say, guys? Are we here to, are we going to try to rebuild the circus, or are we going to, I mean, what's our next step? We've got a mess to solve here. We're kind of homeless and jobless and basically at the mercy of a town guard that hates us. So what shall our next steps be?
Everyone roll perception. So as you're talking, Ozer, you kind of hear this sort of snap. It sounds like somebody hit something, and all of a sudden you kind of hear this kind of tumbling and then a crashing sound, and then you hear this kind of motherfucker.
Well, that seems like the kind of thing I would react to. Hey, what's going on? And try to go in that direction.
And so when you hear that sound, you walk over and you see a familiar dwarf, kind of seeing you guys approach, and he sort of has his hands up like he's ready to fight.
Dude, seriously, we're not up for a fight. What the hell are you doing?
What are you guys doing here? And clearly it's Frumperton.
Well, this is our circus.
Well, I came here to see what's left of it.
That's essentially what we're here for, too.
He looks around and says, "There's nothing here. It's gone. What happened?"
You will go and give him the 2-minute version of what happened.
So, yeah, I know when the shit really hit the fan, I got the fuck out of here. I ran away. Is everyone okay? What's going on?
Well, Wilhelm and Harkin are dead. Madam is in town recovering with Alec, and the rest of us are essentially on in-town arrest, trying to figure out what the hell happened because we're kind of being accused of it, but not so much.
He looks at you and says, Wilhelm's dead? Fucking prick.
Yeah, we're not going to have a real nice funeral for him.
Why have one at all? Where's his corpse? I'd like to take a shit on it.
Yeah, right over there. Go help yourself.
He sort of skips off towards it, and he's already unbuckling his pants.
Perfect.
All right, so for the moment, the four of you are again alone.
Waiting for somebody else to react.
Have I found my panther?
You have not found a panther. Roll a nature check. Okay, so given that you are a good with animals, you can see animal tracks that lead pretty much everywhere from where you were setting them free. Being that you had not only panthers, but you also had lions and tigers and bears, oh my, you can't really make out the specific panther prints, but you can tell that a lot of the animal prints went off towards the woods, off towards the north side of the town.
Alright, well, I'll start going out that way.
Okay.
I mean, it's more for the animals' protection than the people's protection.
I'll follow along to help find the panther.
All right. Ms. and Ozer?
Well, I don't know. I'm actually kind of, at this point, extremely curious about what's going on. This darkness, all this craziness. I just, not sure where to proceed on this.
So as Ozer and Miz are standing there, trying to figure out what their next move, Frumperton comes back and he's like, did you guys happen to how do I put this, really thoroughly search Wilhelm?
What does that mean?
He pulls out a sheet of paper that he has, and kind of looks at you, at Miz first, and says, "Fuck that, you're the creepy one," and hands it to Ozer.
I will gladly take a look.
All right, so given your background, when you open the note, you see both Naya's name and Alex's name and 500 gold written down on it.
I'm going to say that Naya's probably in danger based off of this. And we should probably get our asses to town and assist Alec.
Okay.
So I'm going to yell at Miz to go and try to find those two, and I'm going to start booking it to town.
All right, and Frumperton sits there and as you run off, it looks at Miz and says, what are I'm gonna go to the town because I know a little bit about those things, and I don't want to be here. So good luck, kiddo. And he shuffles off towards the town.
All right, I guess I'll proceed to try to find the other two. I'm not sure which way they wandered off to.
Oh, you saw them wander off towards the northern part of the woods.
Okay, I'll proceed that direction and see if I can find them and tell them what we found, and we're headed back to town.
All right. So that is where we are going to leave it for the week. Yes. So, to recap, you've done a lot of investigation. From what you know, a cult may or may not have coordinated attack, or I shouldn't say a cult, a group of bandits that wear specific masks have seemed to have coordinated an attack on a night that humans went mad on the south part of the town. The northern part of the town caught fire. A lot of bodies, a lot of dead people have wound up in this affair. Some of the survivors are holed up in the church, not a whole lot. Others are helping fight the fires in the northern part of the town, while most of the guards are now in the southern part of the town, where Gustav has coordinated now the cleanup after this major attack. It is daytime, but it's nighttime. And we know that the animals escaped to the northern part of the woods. You guys came across a tiefling who seemed awfully curious about Oleg. And Frumperton, who seems to have appeared out of nowhere, has found a note with two names on it, Naya and Oleg, and a note and a price of 500 gold. Oleg.
Seems legit.
Ozer has gone off to get Oleg, and Miz is off with Orcum and Naya off to try to find her panther.
We're gonna get jumped.
Hopefully we find the panther first.
So with that,
What else could do that fight?
so with that, we will convene in 2 weeks if that still works with everybody.
2 weeks should work.
All right. You guys went off in a completely different. By the way, you guys went off in a completely different direction than I thought you were going to go. So today's episode was completely fucking made up.
You are welcome.
Sweet. 2 weeks works for me as well, so that's good.
All right. So hopefully I kept this intriguing, having to make it up as much as I possibly could.
Well, maybe give us a fucking plot hook next time. Jeez.
Oh, there was one. I kept trying to get you to go there. There's a couple times you say, well, maybe we should do this. And I went, yes, you should. And then you were like, let's do this. I'm like, fuck. So we'll figure that out. But for now, in 2 weeks, I will see you then. And hopefully Oleg will be bandaged up and ready to go.
Yeah.
And I will try to design more stuff just in case.
I should be okay. It literally happened like 5 minutes before we were supposed to start playing, and I was like, I'll be fine, and I was not fine.
So
What did you do?
Exactly. I was going to say, quick story. You have to tell us what you did.
I was coughing. That's it.
You coughed your rib broken?
Yeah, I've been dealing with the flu for like a month, and I just I'm past it now, but I just have the little residual like nose drip down the back of your throat. And I was just sitting here, I was having some lunch, I started coughing, and I felt a pop, and the pain was out of my mind. I mean, 10 of 10. So I got up, and I was walking around, and I took some ibuprofen, and my wife was there, and she kind of got me calmed down. And so I sat down, I'm like, I just got to sit here and talk, it's going to be fine. But I couldn't even stand sitting in the chair, so I just told her, like, we need to go to the hospital, this is not okay.
I'm sorry, poor thing.
So
The drugs are nice now. It's feeling a lot better.
So you literally broke your rib or fractured
Yeah.
it?
No, it's a straight through fracture. Did I post the picture of the x-ray?
You did.
Yeah, if you look at, let's see, the picture there, the bottom one, you can see there's the one rib and it kind of goes up and it's the total fracture there and then it continues on.
Ouch.
I didn't think it was
Top one.
possible from coughing.
Yeah, I guess the doctor said it's one of the more common ways people can do it, aside from, like a football type thing or, assault. But he was kind of surprised to see that it had fractured through and through, and I was kind of surprised too. The worst part is there's just nothing you can do. I'm painkillers and wait. So just trying to stay comfortable at this point, throwing ice on it and waiting, I guess, for 6 to 8 weeks. Hooray.
Holy shit.
Damn.
The worst part is it keeps moving, so like you can feel it grinding inside of your chest.
Oh, that's something where it's like every breath you take, right?
Every
Yeah, so
breath you take.
breathing's pretty stable. The bigger problem is like say like so I'm sitting in my chair but I'm not resting my back. So if I lay back on my back, it pushes on my back ribs and that fractures on my side. So it makes those click and grind together because it pushes from the back. But I can't I'm trying to figure out ways to like get comfortable without moving around.
Well, take it easy, man. Holy shit, that's crazy.
Yeah, I've never done anything like this. I mean, I've broken bones before, but it was all when I was a kid, and I've never done it as an adult.
Damn, I haven't broken a bone ever. Period. Knock on wood. So, Jesus, hearing someone can break. Now I'm gonna be afraid of coughing for the rest of my life now.
I mean, to be fair, I was coughing pretty hard, and I was also sitting and kind of like doubled over when I was doing it, so there's a lot of pressure on my ribs. But yeah, I guess coughing right now is the worst thing I can do. If I even have to like clear my throat, it's really, really sore.
Well, goddamn.
What do you do, right? Like, cool. I got an injury while I was at my computer. That's amazing.
Right. Well, for
a
you,
hardcore D&D session.
no
Right?
shit.
It's probably kind of poetic that my character rested his injuries.
Yeah,
So,
he probably would have broken a rib given the beating he was taking.
yeah.
So I will post this episode on my YouTube channel as soon as possible, and I'll post a link again in the chat so that if you want, you can get caught up and figure out what these guys have done so far.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can try to find those plot hooks that we all missed.
Make them a little bit.
Exactly.
Well, one of those plot hooks is see, you never brought it up, but one of those plot hooks I gave you like right away at the beginning of the whole thing.
Which one?
You don't have it. Ozer has it.
Yeah, I looked.
Well, you looked in the town. But you'll kind of once you get to the point, you'll figure out what it is I was doing eventually. I promise you. So, but you did get a lot of information that will help you too. So,
Yay.
All right, well, cool. We'll figure it out.
But now, take care.
yep. You especially take care. But for the rest of you, have a good weekend. I will be in the middle of a snowstorm the next few days. So, yay.
I'm jealous.
You're probably getting it next.
I don't think we have snow in the forecast. We have some rain, but I think when it hits, I'm going to be flying to England.
So yeah, we're supposed to start with rain tonight, and then tomorrow it's going to move to snow, and I think we're going to get like 5 to 6 inches of snow or something like that. Anyways, while we're talking about this, I won't bore you with the rest of the stream with this one, but
Towards like Bismarck stuff like that, they're forecasting over a foot.
so
Oh, no, I correct myself. I just looked at the weather. We got 3 to 6 inches of snow on Monday and Tuesday.
yeah, so you're basically getting what we're getting, but we're also getting it on Sunday and Monday through Tuesday, actually Sunday through Tuesday.
We're in the 4 to 6 band for Sunday to Tuesday.
Yep. So
All right, well, I'll see you guys in raid tomorrow.
see ya.
No, you won't.
See you then.
So with that, I am going to say
later,
this.
good
It's rather one of the most boring. It was one of the boring episodes with no encounters. There was one designed, I will say that, for this particular episode, but they never put themselves in the position to get into that encounter. So, so for right now, that encounter awaits, and I will design something else just in case they don't go that route. They were intending to go this route before. They just changed their mind, and that's one of the challenges of being a DM, especially in something that you're writing. Is that at some points in time you're going to have to start improvising. In fact, I want to thank Matt Mercer for pointing this information out, that when you are a DM, one of the best skills you can learn, and I'm not saying I'm good at it, but one of the best skills to learn is the skill to improvise. And so You want to be able to, as many improvisation artists, actors, it's called yes-anding. So you play off an idea that somebody has, and you go yes and then you add to it. So a lot of what tonight was improvisation. Like I said, I did have an encounter ready for them to go. It's still there, and they may go a different route that could get them killed. Who knows? I won't necessarily try to nudge them the right direction, because that's not what a DM is supposed to do. You want your players. This is a tip from me to you, and from what I've read from other DM dungeon masters. The worst kinds of DMs are ones that are out to kill their characters. That is not what you're supposed to do. This is a story that you're trying to tell, and you want that story to have a kind of go forward kind of thing. Now, sometimes, like I said, days like today, it's not going to happen. It didn't really go forward. It sort of just moved laterally, but built up enough more information so that they have a little bit more information about the world. From what they do know, or what they suspect, is that Naya and Alec are in danger, and that may or may not be true. As I said, Ozzer has some information in his knowledge given from his background that he could share with the group, or he could just leave it to himself. You never know. That's what the point of a character is. You don't necessarily have to work with your team. You might be just stuck with him. I don't know if that's how he's playing that character or not. Miz, clearly a strange character. So we'll see how she develops as it goes on. Naya, clearly concerned with her panther. I love that that's a theme, and maybe she finds the panther right away. Maybe she doesn't. Can't tell you just yet. And you have Orcam, who is doing his best to figure things out, asking the right questions, but I'm kind of fucking with him a little bit too. So we'll see how it goes. And as we found out, Alec, the player, the person who controls Alec, fucked his rib up, broke his goddamn rib, coughing. Holy shit! That's something. That's crazy. So, but Alec did take a beating the first episode, so it kind of works out well that he been resting. And being this is really only I've maybe totaled 10 hours of DMing. I will say this: I'm not great at it, but I am learning. And so, if you are following this stream or following these episodes, hopefully, as it goes, I grow better at not only DMing but telling the story that I have in my head. But if I was going to recap it for you right now, at least kind of remind you of things that have happened so far. Full solar eclipse followed by a full lunar eclipse that doesn't seem to be ending. And as it happened, all the humans in the area, as far as we know, went nuts. They went crazy. They went bananas. They rioted. They pillaged and plundered and killed non-humans, terrorized them, burnt things down. There seems to have been a somewhat coordinated attack related to this eclipse. Whether or not those people in charge of that attack would know that this madness would happen, I guess that remains to be seen. But as we go, we will learn more about this world and about what's going on and about this child and the infernal script that she has. Naya currently carrying some script of infernal information. She could have asked the tiefling that they spoke to about it, because tieflings do speak infernal. Or I guess it could be abyssal too. I did say that it was also infernal or abyssal, but she didn't. And maybe he wouldn't have said what was actually on that information. Who knows? Who is this mysterious person that they ran into in the circus? Maybe they should find that out. What was Wilhelm doing in those woods? Interesting. Maybe they need to find that out. And finally, where the fuck did those bandits come from? Another possible avenue for them to investigate. And who is this that Sasha was running from? 4 different avenues to go through. I gave them 4. Yeah, 4. So with that, I'm going to put up some information here. The thank you for watching stream right here. Don't forget to follow me right here on Twitch and check back in 2 weeks for another episode of The Nightmare Child. Tomorrow I will be raiding with the Epic Eggplant as Frumperton, my rogue. I fell in love with the character Frumperton writing the story, the novelized version of the story. Frumperton doesn't have so much of an effect so far in the actual role-playing game, but Frumperton tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central U.S. time, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern until 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I think that's all right. And, yeah. Tomorrow during a snowstorm. So right now it is just a gray sky, nice and warm outside, but soon, snowpocalypse. Oh, wait, I gotta do this. Snowpocalypse. I have toys. So with that, thank you for watching. I hope you're finding this story at least somewhat intriguing right now, and want to know more. I will be posting this on my YouTube channel. I believe it's the Nightmare DM YouTube channel is the username. I should probably start posting that. But in the meantime, I will see you all tomorrow during my Epic Eggplant raid as Frumperton the Dwarf Clown Rogue. Thanks for watching.